Chapter 158. A brilliant rainbow beam of light, with Earth as the starting point, instantly shuttled through countless different planets and star fields, and all the scenery and objects were moving backward at a speed faster than the speed of light. Wrapped in the rainbow light, Kale's humanoid figure could be vaguely seen. He had already lost consciousness, but his left palm was still holding the dimensional stone tightly. Kale's entire body was eroded by the violent energy of the stone, and the blue light seemed to be flowing in his body along with his blood, and it was obvious that it could peek through his skin into his internal organs and veins. Gurgle, Venom, who was attached to the surface of Kale's body, made some kind of sharp and strange scream, and could no longer maintain the form of the Black Knight battle suit and returned to its original body that was similar to a mass of black liquid. The black liquid, little by little, retreated from Kale's left arm to his shoulder, and then from his shoulder to the right half of his body, as if it couldn't withstand the burning and annihilation caused by the energy of the stone, and finally completely separated from the symbiosis and became independent. At the same time, Venom, along with the vibranium arm guards, sodium carbon steel sword, energy pistol, and other equipment and items that were originally on Kale's body, were all fixed to the outside of his body by the liquid black silk. It looked like a turtle shell that was pieced together with several pieces of equipment, and its body was curled up and hidden inside to enter a deep sleep. The dimensional stone flickered and then completely dimmed, disappearing into the left palm of Kale's unconscious left hand, and the blue light of the stone's energy was also hidden in the body. The Bifrost left the solar system and crossed the Milky Way, and finally reached the other side of the Milky Way and lost its luster. Kale and Venom paused in the dark starry sky, and then fell into the vortex black hole in front of them one after the other. At this time, somewhere on a planet, in a desolate and abandoned area without an owner. From different planets, the rotten corpses of various creatures, broken garbage, and so on were piled up into garbage mountains, flowing into garbage rivers, and the mountains were covered with garbage. A small team of 5 humanoid race creatures draped in dirty protective cloaks and ugly masks. They held gunny sacks and laser guns in their hands as they searched carefully like scavengers, recycling the valuable alien trash they found. All of a sudden, the 5 scavengers raised their heads and looked directly above their heads. Then they excitedly knelt on the ground and cheered with their hands raised high in the air. The sky was dark and gloomy. There were already several small colored wormholes scattered in the sky. At this moment, one of the small wormholes rapidly expanded, forming a red wormhole vortex with a radius of 100 meters. Accompanied by the howling and spinning of the storm, the gap in the wormhole vortex began to throw out all sorts of trash of varying sizes, just like a massive garbage rain. And for scavengers, fresh trash that had not been scoured was naturally like a gift from the heavens. Bang! Among the trash was half a damaged fighter jet. The trash that fell from the sky piled up into a new garbage mountain. The 5 scavengers on the side danced with joy, not caring about the garbage rain that was still falling. They all rushed into the mountain and searched left and right. I thought that the competition in the suburbs would not be so great, but in the end we were one step ahead again. And it's such a large amount of fresh trash, there must be something good inside. Less than 30 meters away from the new garbage mountain, a small figure was hiding behind a plastic bucket. A pair of green beastly eyes stared at the scavengers who had taken the initiative and sighed. 5 of them, all armed with firearms. It's too hard to deal with them. Forget it, forget it. Xiaoying shrank back and prepared to leave, but its small footsteps suddenly stopped. It was the new garbage mountain that it had been paying attention to all this time, as if an unexpected change had occurred. 5 scavengers were crawling on top of the newly formed garbage mountain. They were constantly rummaging through the garbage, looking for valuable garbage items. One of the scavengers put down his weapon and used both hands to lift up a piece of broken steel deck. He squatted down and tried to get a closer look at the items under the garbage mountain, but a lot of trash suddenly flew out and exploded. The scavenger was shocked and wanted to retreat, but at the bottom of the garbage mountain, a bare hand shot out like lightning, the 5 fingers like iron clamps tightly gripping his neck. There's a living creature. The other 4 scavengers were shocked. They held their guns and went into a state of high alert. Woo-woo. Strangled, the scavenger's 4 limbs struggled violently in panic. The garbage on the garbage mountain rolled down, and the owner of the hand slowly revealed his true face. A head of cool silver hair, a pair of blue eyes and slightly bronzed skin. The tall and perfect body of a human youth was only wearing a pair of boxers. The muscles on his left hand bulged like steel, and with just brute force, he lifted the scavenger in his hand off the ground. What kind of creature are you? Hurry up and put down our man. The 4 scavengers surrounded him with guns and warned him in the galactic common language. Hearing the unfamiliar language, the silver-haired youth who had just woken up was in a daze, as if he still had the time difference of crossing the galaxy. He shook his head, not understanding the situation, and after taking a few deep breaths, the confusion in his eyes disappeared. "I really did it," Kale muttered to himself. His 5 fingers loosened, and the scavenger who was about to die rolled down the garbage mountain. Pulling off his mask, the male scavenger panted as if he had just survived a disaster. His face also had facial features, but his skin was pale and strange, not the same as the humans on Earth. This made Kale even more certain that the person in front of him was a completely alien species, and this was no longer the original Earth. "Are you a warrior?" The other 4 scavengers didn't withdraw from the area, and instead their hostility grew. They pointed their guns at Kale and approached the garbage mountain step by step. On Earth, it seemed that no one had dared to point a gun at him like this for a long time. "Warrior? So what if I am?" Kale's tone turned cold and he subconsciously clenched his fists. Slightly stunned, he realized that he didn't have a symbiotic relationship with Venom. Where did Venom go? Also, the weapons and equipment on his body seemed to be gone. If you're a warrior, you don't need to be treated as food. You can sell them for a good price in the arena. The scavenger who took off his mask stared fiercely at Kale and ordered the other 4 people with guns, "Capture him alive." Hearing this, Kale's face turned completely cold. Looking at the 4 approaching scavengers, his eyes turned cold. He had originally planned to take a step back and inquire about this place, but now it seemed that there was no need for that at all. It turned out that no matter where it was, the law of the Marvel Universe was always the same: the strong preyed on the weak. Kale suddenly smiled. Chapter 159. Whoosh. In their field of vision, Kale turned into a blurry shadow that flashed by. In the blink of an eye, he dove down from the top of the garbage mountain. The explosive speed of 10 times that of a human was too terrifying. The leader of the scavengers opened his mouth wide. Without a gun in his hand, he could only spit out 3 words in a trembling voice: "Quick, fire." As soon as he finished speaking, several bright lasers brushed past his shadow and hit the garbage mountain, exploding. Immediately after, Kyle closed in and punched out with all his strength. The 2 scavengers standing at the very front immediately cried out in pain under the heavy punches that weighed more than a ton. They let go of the guns in their hands and couldn't stop their bodies from flying backwards. There were clear fist marks on their chests. Even their muscles and ribs had caved in. They were like rubber balls as they flew more than 10 meters away. They looked like humans, but their vitality was not much higher than a normal human's. Half of their bodies hit another garbage mountain, and they stopped moving, becoming new garbage. Kale flipped his palms. His face was indifferent as he accurately caught the 2 black and gold guns of the scavengers that had been killed. He quickly aimed the guns at the other 2 scavengers. "Quick, kill him." The 2 scavengers shouted as they raised their guns to fight back. However, their words quickly turned into screams. Their bodies were penetrated by the lasers. A round bloody hole formed in their abdomens or chests. They lost all signs of life and fell to the ground. "I hate it when people point their guns at me." Kale shrugged and turned to the side. He looked at the surviving scavenger leader coldly and slowly approached him. The leader of the scavengers sat on the trash-filled floor in a daze. Everything had happened too quickly. In less than 3 seconds, his 4 companions had all been reduced to corpses. Tap tap. The naked Kyle stopped in front of the scavenger, wearing only a pair of large underpants and combat boots. The leader of the scavengers knelt on the ground and lowered his head, begging for mercy. He gently kissed Kyle's dirty boots and said in a trembling voice, "Don't kill me. I'm very familiar with this place. I'll be very useful to you." "What use do you have? Tell me," Kale asked coldly. Venom was not here, so he really needed a local to understand the situation here. "I can," the scavenger leader said. He suddenly swung his left hand that was hidden under his body. A small technological device like a hidden weapon suddenly attacked Kale. Kyle's eyes flickered as if he was prepared for it. His body was still in a state of combat readiness. His 5 senses and reflexes were incomparably sharp. Facing this seemingly unavoidable close-range attack, his body gently leaned to the side and cleverly avoided the small technological device. The technological device smashed into the abandoned steel deck behind him and immediately stuck to the surface, as if some kind of liquid had been injected into it. How is it possible to avoid it? The leader of the scavengers was dumbfounded. His pale and ugly face looked like he wanted to cry but had no tears. "When it comes to hidden weapons, you're not even as good as those ninjas from Nissan." Kale shook his head. If he had met someone else who was careless, he would have probably fallen for it. Unfortunately, he was a war hero from the cruel battlefield of World War II on Earth. This kind of small trick was far from enough to trick him. However, after this resistance, Kale also lost his temper. He raised his foot and stepped directly on the scavenger leader's head. He ignored the scavenger leader's cries and begging for mercy and stepped half of his face into the ground. "You can't kill me. Kill me, you alien. You won't live past today," the leader of the scavengers said through gritted teeth. Half of his mouth was buried in the ground, and he even choked on a few mouthfuls of garbage and dust. "Kid, I'll bear with you for a while. Later, I'll sell you to the arena and count the money for me," he thought resentfully. He thought that he had something on him so his opponent would not kill him easily. Unfortunately, he guessed wrong about Kale again. "I've already given you 2 chances. There's a saying in my hometown, don't do things more than 3 times. But in my world there will never be a 3rd chance." With a cold smile, Kale slowed down the force of his foot and pressed it down inch by inch. The scavenger leader's head was about to be squashed, and he had a splitting headache. He finally began to panic. He knew that he had met a tough opponent. "Give me one more chance." Smack. After the crisp sound of something breaking, the giant whirlpool above Kale's head shrank back to its original size. The rain of garbage stopped and the noise in the area quieted down. "Did I come across a wormhole on the way here? Where's Venom? Why didn't it follow me?" Looking at the pile of garbage that he had come out from, Kale fell into deep thought. He stepped on the leader's cotton cloak and rubbed it back and forth, wiping the sticky blood off the bottom of his shoes. Kale looked down and saw 3 ownerless item cards floating above the leader's body. High-pressure laser gun, high-tech thermal weapon. Can shoot a single laser beam. Will cause penetrating and burning damage to the target. Blue item card. Neurotoxin remote control machine, high-tech auxiliary tool. Together with a small god-level toxin-emitting probe, it can be controlled remotely to inject toxins and paralyze the target. Blue item card. Scavenger identity card. The identification of the scavenger profession, number 266. White item card. Even scavenger and beggar are recognized as professions on this planet? Is this for real? The corner of Kale's mouth twitched slightly. He drew the card. This was the first time he looked around carefully, and he somewhat understood the origin of this profession. He looked around and as far as his eyes could see, there was an endless amount of garbage. This scene had an inexplicable sense of horror and familiarity. The most important thing now was to find a local and understand the situation here. Kale thought for a moment, and suddenly looked at a pile of garbage 20 meters to his left. He raised the laser gun and calmly said, "Come out, I found you." That. Under the gun's aim, a small animal that looked like a squirrel and a white bear walked out timidly with small steps. It bowed towards Kale like a gentleman and said in a low voice, "Respected outer space expert, I offer you my respect. I am just passing by and I am not with those scavengers." "What kind of species are you?" Kale put down the gun and looked at the talking creature with interest. It was as big as a house cat on Earth. Its whole body was covered in white fur. It was slightly conspicuous in the dirty garbage field. When it stood, it looked like a bear that had shrunk several times, but it also had the tail and ears of a squirrel. "My name is Bibo. I am a modified life form from a certain planet. I am a semi-finished low life form that has been subjected to illegal genetic and simulation experiments." The small animal's posture was very low as it said humbly. Bibo. Kale nodded and calmly said, "I need to know the details of this place. I am willing to answer your questions." Chapter 160. Sokka Planet? Hearing Bibo's explanation, Kale was stunned for a moment. Looking at the garbage scene around him again, his eyes finally showed some understanding. No wonder it looked so familiar. Isn't this the lost land known as the Universe Garbage Dump? Hulk and Thor also fell here one after another. Bibo's paw pointed to the small colorful wormholes scattered in the sky and added, "The space of this planet is extremely unstable. There are countless wormholes surrounding the sky. These unstable wormholes are connected to various parts of the universe from time to time and are also used as a perfect garbage dump by some civilized planets." "You mean, when I was crossing the stars, I passed through the open wormhole and was thrown in as garbage?" Pulling the corner of his mouth, Kale seemed to think of something. He spread out his left hand and looked at it. There were obvious burn marks left by the space origin stone on his palm, but there was no trace of the infinity stone. His mind quickly sank into the card space. After confirming that there was no result, Kale's heart sank slightly. Not only venom and equipment items, but even the space origin stone, which is crucial for traveling through the stars, was lost? Baibo saw that Kale's face was not right and comforted him softly. Sir, don't be sad. All lost lives, from high-level gods to low-level creatures, as long as they encounter the wormhole vortex, it is difficult to escape the fate of being exiled here. Are you comforting me? Kale glanced at the little beast and shook his head helplessly. Looking at the small wormhole that had returned to its original state and the garbage mountain that he climbed out of, he asked in confusion, "Wait. There is a friend who fell into the wormhole vortex with me. Why am I the only one who appeared here? He didn't fall with me. This is normal." Baibo raised his paw and recalled the catastrophic scene of the giant wormhole vortex just now. He patted his chest with lingering fear. That was the red teleportation vortex known as the Devil's Cave. Baibo paused and continued, "It is formed by the collapse of a neutron star in the universe. Sometimes it is not a pure space wormhole. Often there is a time wormhole superimposed below. Even if they fall into the eye of the vortex at the same time, the place where they come out is fixed. It is impossible to say who comes here first." Space-time wormhole? Kale felt a slight headache coming on. He calmly asked, "How long is the time difference?" Baibo stretched out two little fingers. 1 or 2 weeks. Kale was about to let out a sigh of relief when it quickly added, "Or 1 or 2 years. Kale, wasn't the difference between 1 or 2 years and 1 or 2 weeks too big? If venom took that long to come here, by the time he was cured of his genetic disease, the grass on his grave would be 3 meters tall. It doesn't matter. Although I didn't arrive at the ideal location, as long as this is a habitable planet and there are alien life forms, there is a probability that there is an ability card that can rewrite fate. Now, let's first establish a foothold here and explore this planet." When Kale thought like this, his mood couldn't help but gradually calm down, and his gaze descended onto Baibo as he sized him up from head to toe. Under the slightly sharp gaze, Baibo's hair stood on end. He took a step back and said with a trembling voice, "That I'm just a low-level modified creature. My meat is actually not delicious." The outer space universe was vast and there were all kinds of strange races. Not to mention, Sokka was a lawless place. Under the primitive tone of competition for survival and resources, being hunted as food was also common. "I'm not interested in eating you." Kale shrugged and said, "Baibo, I can make a deal with you." "What kind of deal?" Baibo's ears stood up and looked at Kale suspiciously. "You just came here, so you shouldn't have Sokka currency on you, and you are now." Baibo glanced at Kale, who was only wearing a pair of underpants and holding only 2 laser guns in his hands. He wanted to say something but didn't dare to say the word pauper. Kale seemed to have seen through his thoughts. He raised his chin and motioned to the garbage mountain next to him and said, "I will use this garbage mountain to make a deal with you." "What did you say?" Baibo stomped his feet and said angrily, "I thought you were going to use the spoils of war from killing those 5 scavengers just now. From just now until now, haven't you been eyeing that garbage mountain? That new garbage mountain hasn't been searched yet, so its value isn't low." Kale calmly looked at Baibo and said meaningfully, "You didn't show up just now because you wanted to wait for me to leave and then come back to collect garbage. You should also be a scavenger." "This." Baibo scratched his head a little awkwardly after being seen through by Kale. He thought for a moment and said through gritted teeth, "A high-pressure laser gun and the first search rights of this new garbage mountain. I will agree to complete the deal with you." "No problem." Kale was very straightforward and threw a laser gun in his hand over. Baibo easily caught the laser gun that was bigger than him and hung it on his back. He pondered and said, "You are a very good person and didn't force me. Tell me, what do I need to pay in exchange?" Kale smiled and said seriously, "I need a tour guide who can show me around and officially settle down on this planet. At an unknown time in a certain garbage dump on planet Sokka. Small amounts of garbage scattered down from the small wormholes in the sky. Among them there were metal arm guards, strange rings, energy pistols, and other spherical objects that were pieced together. They fell down and smashed into the river of garbage, creating some splashes. Oh. Not far away, a humanoid scavenger who was alone raised his eyes and just happened to see this scene. He couldn't help but quickly rush into the river, not caring that it was dirty as he madly fished around in the water. After a short while, the humanoid scavenger excitedly fished up the spherical object and used the cloak on his body to continuously clean it. With a slight tug, the humanoid scavenger pulled the vibranium arm guard away from the spherical object, pulling out a few sticky black threads that wrapped around the arm guard. They were so tough that they couldn't be torn apart. "There seems to be something inside?" The humanoid scavenger muttered doubtfully. He held the spherical object with both hands and moved his eyes closer to the gap, wanting to see what was inside. Whoosh! Black liquid burst out from the spherical object like magma, sticking to the humanoid scavenger's face like an octopus. The humanoid scavenger didn't even have the time to cry out. He just sobbed and fell straight into the river, his four limbs constantly flailing about, slapping at the garbage in the river water. Rumble! The humanoid scavenger's body sank to the bottom of the river, bubbling a little. Then he suddenly stood up. His entire body was covered by a layer of black keratin membrane, and his muscles were bulging. He looked several times taller and stronger, and his facial features were hideous and terrifying like a monster's. "I finally got rid of that man," the humanoid monster grimaced and let out a hoarse and violent voice. "I don't want to be Venom anymore." Chapter 161. Planet Saka, Saka City. Dark clouds and small black holes covered the sky. After nightfall, it was as dark as an abyss. There wasn't even a glimmer of hope, and even the light that shone from the surface was swallowed up by the black holes. All kinds of strange high-tech buildings were crowded in the main city. At this time, neon lights shone in all directions, dazzling to the extreme. On the brightly lit main street, there were blue-skinned aliens, stone people made of brown stones, fish people with scales, big-eyed monsters with big eyes and small heads, and so on. Creatures from different planets broke the racial boundaries and paraded the streets in a passionate carnival, as if they were venting the unhappiness of the day to their heart's content. Planet Saka is a planet without life, so there are no natives. Here are basically creatures from all over the universe, lost and fell here, and those who survived became natives. The short Baibo explained, a pair of claws holding a heavy sack that was 5 times larger than himself. He put it on his thin shoulders, dragging it forward with some difficulty. The tall Kale next to him nodded. He had already changed into a hooded wallet and jeans, carrying a military backpack stuffed with 4 laser guns. Ordinary spaceships can't break out of Planet Saka's wormhole vortex, so creatures that enter here are like entering a planet's cage, unable to escape for the rest of their lives. In addition, the food resources here are poor and expensive, and the pressure of survival is great. Even the natives can't say for sure when they will be killed by other scavengers in the wild, so at night they will enjoy themselves freely. Baibo sighed, taking Kale around the bustling main street, taking a remote path from the edge of the desolate and remote wilderness, going deeper and deeper into the city. Frowning slightly, Kale's footsteps suddenly stopped, looking at the corner of the building behind him. As if noticing his abnormality, Baibo put down the sack, turned around and asked, "Mr. Kale, what's wrong?" "Someone is following us," Kale said. His 5 senses were all above the human level, sharper than some wild beasts, and the enemy's tracking was too rough and casual, so it was hard not to notice. "Are you sure?" Baibo's bare face changed slightly, whispering, "Put on the scavenger identity card." Kale nodded and put his hand into his pocket. He took out the identity card of the leader of the scavengers he had killed before and pinned it on his left chest. As soon as he put on the identity plate, the other party seemed to know that he had been exposed. He chuckled and walked out of the alley. Kale looked at the shadow and his pupils contracted. It was a big-eyed alien. Its eyes were the size of an adult's fist, occupying 1/3 of its green face. When it stared at the two of them, its eyeballs kept rolling. "Baibo, you've gained quite a lot today." The large-eyed freak chuckled. "You again. Why are you following me?" Baibo's face was filled with disgust. He touched the laser gun on his back with his claws and said coldly, "If this wasn't the city, I would have blown your eyeballs out long ago. You can't be so lucky every day. Remember, don't let me find you in the wild. Otherwise, I'll have a good taste of your meat." As the large-eyed monster spoke, saliva flowed out of its mouth in disgust. Its large tongue quickly licked and sucked back the saliva. Its green eyes turned and looked at Kale. It said maliciously, "Is he new? What planet is he from?" "That's none of your business. Kale, let's go." Baibo snorted coldly. He turned around and waved his hand. His claws grabbed the sack and walked away. Kale glanced at the large-eyed freak and memorized its ugly appearance. Only then did he follow Baibo's footsteps. Behind them, the large-eyed freak's savage cries came, "Ha ha ha, don't let me see you in the wild. Otherwise, I'll make you into a good meal." "Ignore it. No one dares to do anything in Saka City." Baibo ignored the warning behind him and said confidently as he walked, "Is it because of this identity plate? There are rules and laws here too?" Kale pointed at the identity plate on his left chest and asked, "The scavenger identity plate. This is one of the guarantees of survival as a native of this planet. The most important thing is... Baibo suddenly raised his head. It just so happened that a disc-shaped ship was passing by at an altitude of 50 meters. The large light under the ship constantly scanned the streets below. Kale watched as the silver disc-shaped ship quickly flew away. This floating ship was much more advanced than Earth's World War II fighter jets. Even Wakanda had not reached this level of technology. Baibo reminded him, this is Sokka City's main city's guard. In the junkyard in the wild you can do whatever you want. Killing and robbing are common occurrences. But in the main city, it is an absolute safe zone. No fighting or robbing is allowed. Otherwise, the consequences will be worse than death. Kale nodded in understanding. His eyes flashed. This sentence had another meaning. As long as they were not discovered by the guards, it was fine. Since you are a guide, there is one more important thing I must remind you of. This is also a law that all creatures who come to Sokka Planet must understand. Baibo's tone became heavier. Dragging the heavy sack, he quickened his pace and led Kale through the edge of the main city. After turning the corner of a street, he looked ahead with a serious gaze. Kyle also stopped in his tracks and looked up. What he saw was a strange building that stood tall like a dense forest. At the end of his vision, in the center of the main city, there was a building that was 10 times taller than any other building. It stood out like a crane in a flock of chickens. The front of the central building used holographic projection technology to maintain the projection of a middle-aged man that was several hundred meters tall. He was dressed in luxurious and noble clothes, looking down at the main city and even the entire planet. Dozens of disc-shaped ships, with the figure in the central building as the center, constantly released lights and circled around and spread out. He is the original, the first life lost here. Only known to have lived for millions of years. He is the only supreme master who developed Sokka Planet. His name is Sky Sovereign Gao. The locals here generally call him Grand Master. Baibo lowered his head and said with unprecedented seriousness, on this planet everything is his. The ruler who guards and supervises, the existence that cannot be provoked. There is no other. Sky Sovereign Gao Grand Master. Kale pondered. His blue eyes revealed a deep meaning. He felt that his ultimate goal here had been achieved. Baibo did not know what Kale was thinking. He warned again, if you want to live here then don't try to make contact with him. Grand Masters are the oldest creatures in the universe. They are temperamental and difficult to get along with. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Kale's face was calm as he replied with a smile. Before he had enough confidence, he certainly would not make contact with the Grand Master. But when he had confidence or when his body could not support it, that was another story. Chapter 162. Baibo dragged the sack and brought Kale all the way to the center of Sokka City. The various aliens on the street all glanced at the two of them, as if they were used to it, quickly indulging in their own night of revelry. As they got closer to the central building of the inner city, the strange buildings became more and more prosperous. The number of Grandmaster-level spaceships also became more and more concentrated, almost constantly shooting down lights from above, giving off an inexplicable sense of security and deterrence. Baibo, your home is in the inner city. Looks like you're doing pretty well on this planet. Kale looked around and said in surprise. Of course not. Baibo heard this and his expression became a bit awkward, sighing, you don't know how much the price of housing in the inner city is. The cheapest single room starts at over $1 million Sokka dollars, with a lifespan of only 20 years. A standard room in a hotel, basically a week's rent, is around 10,000 Sokka dollars. Sokka dollars? Kale was a bit surprised. Baibo seemed to know what he was confused about, explaining, the standard high-pressure laser gun in your backpack, one can be exchanged for 10,000 Sokka dollars. Kale heard this price ratio and did some calculations. His heart trembled. A high-tech laser gun could only be exchanged for 10,000 Sokka dollars, only enough to pay for a standard room in the inner city for a week's rent. This was really too much of a scam. To be able to establish a foothold in the inner city, they should be the elites of other planets in the universe. Kale thought to himself. The reason high-pressure laser guns aren't expensive is because they need to consume energy to recharge after use. Energy and food are considered luxuries on this planet. Baibo said this and sighed. Right now, my dream is to work hard to collect trash and save money, to be able to buy a single room in the inner city of Sokka and become a resident of the inner city with security, but this is just too difficult. Baibo's dream was also the pursuit of most of the creatures on this planet. Kale secretly shook his head. He didn't plan on staying on Sokka for long. but wanted to establish a foothold on this planet as soon as possible and investigate if there were any higher dimensional life forms. After all, his body only had about 6 months of life left, he couldn't delay any longer. Okay, we're finally here. Panting, Bo stopped in front of a disc-shaped building on the main road. Kale looked up. The building in front of him seemed to have been remodeled from a small part of a medium-sized battleship. It looked luxurious and very high-tech. On both sides of the door were stone golems armed with laser guns as security guards. This is the bank property under the Grand Master's name. Inside, you can use anything of value to exchange for Saka Star currency. Bo said as he picked up the sack that almost crushed him and walked in. After showing his scavenger identity card, the security guard stepped aside. Kale followed Bo into the building. The lobby on the first floor was spacious, and there were many reception rooms with partitions. Mr. Kale, you need money on Soccer Planet. I suggest that you exchange your laser guns for some soccer currency. Bo suggested. Under the strange gazes of many aliens, he carried the dirty sack and walked to a single reception room. Indeed, money is needed everywhere. Kale shrugged, thought for a moment, and walked into another single room. Scavenger number 266. Welcome to the Saka Trading Center. I am the receptionist, Only. I am happy to serve you. The receptionist named Only was a female alien who looked like a human, but her uniform exposed skin was pink. She greeted Kale through the reception window with a layer of energy protection. I want to exchange for Saka Star currency, Kale said straightforwardly. He reached into his backpack and took out 2 laser guns. Only's expression changed slightly. Only after Kale placed the guns on the window did she relax. You must be a new scavenger. This kind of offensive weapon usually needs to be appraised at a specific window. But since I happen to be free tonight, I'll make an exception and exchange for you. Only pressed a button and the 2 laser guns fell into the window. She picked up a professional instrument and quickly finished the analysis. High-pressure laser rifle. 80% intact. 1 energy slot remaining. Can be exchanged for 10,000. The other is the same model. 85% intact. 2 energy slots remaining. Can be exchanged for 11,000. Only concluded. The 2 items added together can be exchanged for 22,000 Saka Star currency. Do you want to trade? Trade. Kale confirmed and nodded. He felt a slight headache. 22,000 was not enough to stay in a hotel in the inner city of this planet for a month. Could it be that he had to be like Bo, picking up trash or killing people to survive? Cash or a card? If you haven't had a card, you can spend 1,000 to get a new one. Only put away the 2 laser guns and did not forget to promote. Then, do it. Kale frowned deeply. Saka Star's expenses were so expensive that it was not a good idea to continue like this. I'll do it for you right away. Only stood up but was quickly stopped by Kale. Wait a moment. Kale seemed to have thought of something. He put his hand into his military backpack and pretended to fumble around. In reality, he was drawing from the card space and taking out an item. The round steel buckle held a light blue energy block inside. It glowed with white and blue light, filling the entire reception room. This is... Only's eyes widened in shock. The light from the energy block was reflected in her eyes. Kale passed the energy block over. This is a product of my home planet. It's a type of energy block called Krypton. Check it and see how much Saka Star currency it is worth. Only carefully held the Krypton and used the equipment to check it. She frowned slightly and asked, I'm sorry, this energy block's information is not recorded in the database. Please wait a moment. After saying this, Only took the Krypton and hurried backstage. Kale waited for about 5 minutes before Only returned. Behind her was an alien with a large head and glasses. Hello, Mr. Client. This is our chief appraiser and the manager of the Saka Exchange. Only's tone changed from her previous perfunctory greeting to a much more respectful one. The brain alien held the Krypton with both hands and looked at Kale with excitement. Mr., may I ask where your home planet is? A low-level civilization planet. It's not worth mentioning. Kale said calmly, unwilling to reveal any information about Earth. You must be joking. This is a new type of artificially synthesized element. It uses the element as a highly pure energy crystal. Such a small piece can support the operation of an interstellar warship. It simply transcends the definition of energy. It can be considered a work of art. The alien manager stroked the Krypton with infatuation and said excitedly, if it's not a high-level civilization with the highest level of technology and a great opportunity, it's impossible to produce this. I don't understand the relevant knowledge. I just want to ask, what's its value? Kale asked coldly. Chapter 163. Kale's face was calm as he left the reception room. In his trouser pocket there was a transaction card with 10.01 million Saka planet currency, the business card of the manager of the exchange center, and a small slip of paper that the receptionist and Lee had secretly stuffed into his pocket. It just so happened that Bai Bo had finished calculating the entire sack of trash with the receptionist. He walked out of the reception window like he was carrying a large sum of money. He secretly waved his claws at Kale. "Mr. Kale here?" Kale walked over. Bai Bo's claws pulled at his trousers and whispered, "Let's go. Let's get out of here quickly." Kyle was surprised. He looked around and immediately understood what was going on. In the waiting area of the exchange center, there were several aliens secretly monitoring them. Among them was the big-eyed monster that had followed them in the outer city. As he left the exchange center building with Bai Bo, Kale asked him in surprise, "Didn't you say that robbing is not allowed in the city?" "It is not allowed. But that big-eyed monster just now belongs to a criminal team. Some of the alien members have racial talents and are not to be trifled with. Once they lock onto their target, they will raid or steal from the outer city where the guards are weak." Bai Bo was very cautious. His eyes glowed green in the night as he entered a state of alert. He did not sell the high-pressure laser gun. He still carried it on his thin and small body as a defensive weapon. "That's simple. We just have to stay in the inner city and not go out," Kale suggested. "What are you talking about? I already told you how expensive the hotel accommodations in the inner city are. After midnight there is also a curfew." Bai Bo shrunk his neck and covered his bulging waist. He said weakly, "Don't even think about the money on me." "How much did you sell that pile of trash?" Kale asked curiously. Bai Bo lowered his voice in satisfaction and said, "There was a lot of good stuff. I exchanged it for more than 70,000 Saka planet currency." Scavengers risked their lives to go out into the wild. On average, each person's income was less than 10,000 Saka planet currency. 70,000 was already equivalent to a pie falling from the sky. Kale was silent. He had 10 million on him. Before leaving Earth, Howard had rushed to make 3 shaped Krypton coins. He had them all on him. 30 million. Seeing the high-end hotel near the central building, Kale didn't think too much. He grabbed Bai Bo with his left hand and walked towards the hotel. "Mr. Kale, what are you trying to do? Don't go there." Bai Bo let out a desperate wail and kept struggling in Kyle's hands. He could only watch as Kyle walked into the hotel. "Hello, gentlemen. Are you looking for a room?" At the front desk of the hotel, the long-necked alien receptionist was shocked. She looked at Kale and Bai Bo, who was rolling her eyes and almost fainting. "Get a double room," Kale said calmly. Hearing his words, Bai Bo shuddered and groaned in pain. "Don't. Just treat me as a pet and get a single room." The waiter nodded respectfully and said, "We charge by the week. Double rooms cost 100,000 yuan and 50,000 yuan respectively. 30,000 for a single room, and 20,000 for a single room. The price is fair." Bai Bo's heart trembled. This price was like cutting off its heart. Kale, on the other hand, was very calm. He nodded and said with certainty, "Then let's get the one for 100,000 yuan. It's over, it's over." Bai Bo was in despair and hugged his wallet tightly. Kale laughed secretly. He had already taken out the transaction card in his pocket and swiped it to pay. Hearing the beeping sound of the payment, Bai Bo was completely stunned. After receiving the room card, Kale carried the frozen Bai Bo and took the elevator upstairs. Outside the hotel entrance, the large-eyed monster was also dumbfounded. It could only watch the two of them check into the hotel in the inner city. It had originally planned to gather a few good members and try to make a move in the familiar areas of the outer city. It didn't expect that the other party would stay in the inner city. Damn it. They made so much money in the wilderness today that they moved into the inner city residence. That should have been my money. The large-eyed monster gritted its teeth and said angrily to itself. The inner city was close to the Grandmaster's residence. In addition, the sky was densely packed with guards supervising the spaceship. So far, anyone who dared to make a move in the inner city had been sent to the arena for a life-and-death battle. Sighing helplessly, the large-eyed monster could only leave through the street in front of the hotel. A little later at night, the entire city would be under curfew. It didn't notice that at the window on the 5th floor of the hotel, a pair of sharp and cold eyes were watching it leave. On the 5th floor of the hotel, in the main hall of a double suite. "Mr. Kale, I really didn't expect you to be so rich." Bai Bo was still in some kind of dreamlike state. Sitting on the comfortable blanket on the floor, his eyes were shining as he looked at Kale standing next to the window. "If you have something to say it tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll be my tour guide and take me to get to know Sokka better," Kale said coldly. He returned to his master room and closed the door. "This guy, where did he come from? He's strong and generous, but he's a little cold." Bai Bo held his chin and commented. In the spacious room, Kale threw his backpack to the side of the bed. He quickly took off his hooded wallet and jeans. With a wave of his left hand, he pulled out an item card and turned it into a physical object. In the blink of an eye, a one-piece tight black uniform, the same one made by Captain America during World War II, quietly spread out on the bed. "Old man, long time no see." Kale was slightly emotional. Since Venom, this combat suit made by Howard had been sealed in the card space as a card. He didn't expect to use it one day. He picked up the combat suit and began to put it on. From the neck down, it was quickly wrapped by the tight uniform. His perfect physique showed the outline of an assembly line of muscles. "There's no hood." Kale touched his smooth chin and thought of something. He continued to draw cards with his mind. A beast-shaped black helmet materialized in his hand. This was the gift from the Black Panther King T'Chaka before he left. It was a Black Panther helmet made of pure vibranium. The Black Panther suit was one of the royal inheritances of Wakanda. T'Chaka giving away the crucial helmet part was already a crazy test on the edge of violating his ancestors. It represented his deep sincerity. Kale originally treated it as a collector's item. Now it just happened to be put together with the old suit into a full set of physical combat suit. Not to mention the base color was dark black. Wearing the Black Panther helmet and the black combat suit together, it looked like he had changed into a barbaric style. Kale tidied up in front of the mirror in the room. He then opened the window of the room. With a flip of his palm, his body agilely jumped out. "Stealth activated. Climb activated," Kale said in his heart. He stood upside down on the outer wall of the hotel building like a spider. He quickly ran up and stopped when he reached the top railing. He turned around and stood upright, looking down at the dazzling main city streets of Sokka. Chapter 164. In the main city of Sokka, the strange and advanced buildings stood tall like trees in a forest. Small patrol spaceships flew by at low altitude from time to time. Under the sweeping lights, the shadows were blurred. Whoosh, a light-colored, almost translucent figure, like a bloodthirsty beast hiding in the dark, used the rooftops of the buildings in the main city as stepping stones and jumped nimbly. The soles of his feet were attached to the walls, ignoring the buildings and moving quickly in the direction of the outer city. The aliens who were talking and laughing below and the supervisors on the patrol spaceships above did not notice the scene at all. Some of them who were close to 10 meters away only felt a breeze and a shadow flashing by, as if it was an illusion caused by tiredness during the day and sleepiness at night. Buzz buzz. At the junction of the inner city, on the roof of a 3-story building, a 5-meter-tall lamppost was shaking a little due to some kind of impact. It stretched downwards and reflected a humanoid shadow. Standing on the dome of the lamppost, Kale straightened his back and proudly faced the night wind. A pair of cold eyes as sharp as an eagle's looked through the Black Panther vibrating gold mask, searching for traces of the target. Found it. Stopping his gaze, Kale stepped on the lamppost with a little force. The light bulb below could not withstand the pressure and exploded. As the lights on the roof of the building dimmed, a black shadow swooped down directly in front of him. In the outer city of Sokka, there was a 2-meter-wide dead end between the buildings. It was rare that there was no light here and it was pitch black. 3 aliens with different appearances, their bodies covered in black cloaks, were buried in the shadows of the dead end at night. They leaned against the wall as if waiting for someone. "I'm back." The big-eyed monster walked into the dead end with his hands in his pockets and said aloud. One of the aliens, who was tall and thin with a bamboo-shaped body, walked quickly to the entrance of the dead end and scanned outside. He quickly shook his head at the people behind him. "Igu, where are the 2 prey you mentioned? Did they run away?" The other big-eyed monster widened his eyes and asked with slight dissatisfaction. "You can't blame me for this. Who knew that they would directly stay in the hotel in the inner city?" The big-eyed monster called Igu was also very depressed. His eyes kept rolling around. It was not easy for him to set his sights on the best target for tonight. A low-level white bear that had been genetically modified, a human creature that did not seem to have much combat power, and even had enough money to stay in a hotel. If that's the case, then let's end this early tonight. As if she didn't want to waste any more time, the humanoid woman who had been standing at the end of the alley said calmly. Igu, you should have informed us in advance and stopped them in the outer city before they put away their items. The big-eyed monster that seemed to be the leader scolded. It looked at the woman covered in a black cloak with respect and fear. It said gently, Yi-ji, you can go back first. You've made a wasted trip here tonight. Yi-ji nodded slightly. She tiptoed and walked forward like a cat. The two big-eyed monsters, one big and one small, and the tall and thin alien leaned against the wall of the alley, making enough space for her. When they were about to walk out of the alley, Yi-ji frowned slightly and felt her hair stand on end. She even felt an inexplicable sense of oppression and fear in her heart. She did not care about maintaining her elegance and followed her instincts to quickly roll on the ground. Be careful. As soon as she finished speaking, a tall and strong human figure in black descended from the sky. His feet stomped heavily on the ground where Yi-ji had been standing. Without any cushioning force, under his undisguised offensive intent, even the hard ground cracked slightly. It was so intimidating that the expressions of the people around him changed drastically. Who is it? The leader of the Big Eye Monsters asked quickly, trying to buy enough time to react. Kale was not with them. What was the meaning of this? Xian Lianyo was stunned by Napier's reaction. Yuanyuan Twilight Slope? Relief? Causing a ruckus? Conjuring eunuchs and guanidines? The two of them screamed and were sent flying into the wall behind them without any suspense. The wall caved in slightly. A loud, muffled sound spread out clearly. So powerful. If I hadn't dodged, I would have been seriously injured. Yi-ji continued to roll to open up a distance. She got up and looked at her two companions, who were wailing in pain. She was secretly shocked. They're crazy. How dare they act so presumptuously in the city? Don't they know they'll attract the supervising guards? Their physical resistance is not bad. Retracting his fist, Kale glanced coldly at the two aliens. If they did not die after taking a punch from him, it could be considered a test to see if they had a physique and vitality that surpassed humans. However, that was all. From the moment he attacked, he decided to end the battle quickly. Kale was about to follow up with another attack and finish off the two aliens who were already seriously injured when he suddenly looked up. A light blue energy exploded at close range. It was like a wave of ripples that covered the narrow space of the alley. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, Kale took the initiative to push his forehead forward and hit the energy wave with his head. The moment they made contact, blue electric arcs exploded in the middle of the alley. Electric pulse impact? Strands of electric arcs wrapped around his body. Kale felt his entire body go numb. His body temporarily lost its functions and fell straight to the ground. You bastard, who the hell are you? Igu held the electric pulse impact gun with both hands and stared fiercely at Kale on the ground, as if he wanted to swallow him alive. Kale did not answer. He was motionless, as if he had fainted from the electric shock. Hurry up and kill him and leave this place. If you don't leave now, the guards will come. Yi-ji calmly urged. If it wasn't for her friendship with this small team, she would have left this place alone. Fighting in the main city of Sokka and being discovered by the guards was no laughing matter. Yes, you're right. Igu nodded in a panic. He aimed the electric pulse impact gun at Kale, who was lying on the ground. The blue light slowly lit up as if it was charging. The energy gathered at the baby's fist-sized muzzle. Just before the electric pulse impact gun was about to shoot, under the Black Panther's vibranium mask, Kale's closed eyes suddenly opened. He got up with an extraordinary reaction speed and kicked up quickly, hitting the front end of the gun in Igu's hand. The gun barrel was kicked up and the blue energy beam passed through one of Igu's big eyes. Igu hugged his wound in pain and fell to the ground, groaning and rolling. The energy beam continued to go up, rushing out of the alley. At a low altitude, blue electric waves burst out. It was as conspicuous as fireworks in the night. It's over. Yi-ji looked at the electric waves in the sky above her head. Fear appeared in her eyes under the cloak. We have to leave this place as soon as possible. If we don't leave now, we'll be finished. Chapter 165. When Kyle was in the outer city, he already had the idea of killing Igu, the big-eyed alien. When he first came to planet Sokka, he wanted to understand the situation and rules here. He didn't want to cause trouble so early. But Igu wanted to treat him as food and even jumped in front of him again and again. Provocation, mockery, and preparation of a conspiracy. Instead of keeping this kind of alien for the future, why not kill it earlier to prevent it from jumping in the future? It came out to disgust you. With this thought, Kyle's face turned cold. He kicked Igu's stomach again. Under his full strength, Igu's body deflated like a rubber ball. With a thud, he slammed into the wall of the alley and died. Igu. The leader of the big-eyed monsters was not dead yet. When he saw this scene, his eyes were filled with anger and he fainted in grief. Next, it's your turn. Kale looked up and stepped forward to make a move. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked out of the alley. It was the female alien who had been escaping. She returned to the alley in a panic. "Damn it, look at what you've done," Yi whispered angrily. Kale frowned, but he soon understood why she came back. From the sky above, outside the alley, the dazzling daytime lights from all directions shone into the alley and focused on Kale and Yi who were still standing. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Small spaceships buzzed and hovered above the alley. They were so densely packed that they almost filled the night sky. Outside the alley, dozens of guards with laser guns blocked the exit. The muzzles and lights were aimed at Kale and Yi in the alley. The floating spaceship, which was larger than an ordinary patrol spaceship, was equipped with a variety of high-performance weapons, and had a more technological feel, broadcast to the bottom of the alley. "Violators, you have been surrounded. Please don't make any more unnecessary resistance. You have violated the 5th rule set by the Grandmaster, private fighting in the main city of Sokka. I, the Chief Guard, am here to arrest you and send you to the life and death arena. I seem to have gone a little overboard." Under the pressure of the spaceship's laser cannons and the guards' laser guns, Kale shrugged and stood where he was. Yi raised her hands helplessly and slowly approached Kale. If we're caught, we'll die in the duel arena. Why don't we work together?" Yi said in a low voice. "Are you talking to me?" Kale was stunned. In response, Yi snorted coldly. "Who else could it be apart from you? In this situation, only the two of us can have a chance of escaping from the guards." "No, I'm just a little surprised. I just killed your companion," Kale said curiously. "Igu and the others are not my companions. Furthermore, for the sake of life and death, I can give up anything." As Yi spoke, the guards outside the alley had already arrived at the entrance of the alley with guns. She could not help but sound anxious. "Hurry up and decide. If we delay any longer, we'll really be finished together." "I don't care." Kale nodded. Although he was surrounded by the alien armed forces, he still had means to escape easily, so he did not appear to be anxious. The reason why he stayed was the identity of the female alien in front of him. Kale's gaze fell on Yi. Nearly 100 ability cards shone brightly. Among them, the one that attracted his attention and made his heart tremble was a dark purple ability card. Dark Night Elf Gene. The race gene of a hybrid elf. Rare purple ability card, half-sealed. A hybrid between a light elf and a dark elf. It has the natural lifespan of an ordinary elf of thousands of years and strong vitality. After inheriting the bloodline magic of both parents, light and dark will interfere with each other and difficult to control. Current status: talent ability half-sealed, unstable, unable to draw. A rare purple physique ability card. Clenching his fists, Kale could not calm down. This was the first time he saw the existence of a rare purple ability card. If he could draw such a high-level physique ability card and strengthen his physique that had already reached a bottleneck, there would be a high probability of solving the genetic disease in his body. Although the talent ability of the Dark Knight Elf in front of him was unstable and could not be drawn, it still made him extremely excited. Ignoring the time jump in the space-time wormhole, this was only the first day he arrived on planet Sokka and he had already met a member of a high-level race that could be used as a long-term observation. Speaking of which, the Light Elf race should be in the upper divine territory where Asgard is. Why are they secretly involved with the Dark Elves of the lower level? Kale secretly complained. Looking at Yi who was wrapped in a cloak, he made a decision in his heart. I can help her escape from here while ensuring my own safety. Yi did not know that Kale was thinking so much. Hearing that he was willing to cooperate, she took a deep breath and said, "Then it's decided. I'll cast a spell as a signal to attract the attention of the guards. You take the opportunity to break out and then—" "No need." Kale interrupted her. Looking at the armed guards who were rushing in, he said, "There will be a big commotion later. Take the opportunity to leave." After he finished speaking, under Yi's shocked gaze, he suddenly sped up and forcefully broke out. In half a second, Kale rushed out of the narrow alley and stepped on the face of a guard, using the force to jump high. "Stop him." Kale's crazy actions undoubtedly angered the chief guard on the spaceship. An order came from the communicator. Dozens of armed guards on the street aimed at Kale and pulled the trigger in unison. Dozens of lasers were fired at Kale who was about to land. The corners of Kale's mouth curled up. He bent his legs slightly to accumulate power and then stomped heavily on the air under his feet. Air sprint. The energy tide erupted under Kale's feet. Under the sudden acceleration, his body disappeared into thin air, leaving behind a series of white circles and afterimages. He swept across a distance of 20 to 30 meters and landed on the wall of a building. When Kale stood upside down on the outer wall of the building, the lasers finally collided and exploded on the spot. A glaring light shone in all directions. "Please chase him." As if provoking him, Kale pointed his middle finger at the spaceship in the sky. Then, without looking back, he sprinted and climbed out of the building area. "What kind of creature is that?" The guards and the spaceship pilot were all stunned. "What are you waiting for? Go after him. All of you, go after him." The chief guard's exasperated words came out from the communicator and the spaceship broadcast. Almost 10 hovering spaceships accelerated immediately. Blue flames shot out from their tails as they chased after Kale's figure in the distance. "Who is that guy?" Chapter 166. After a night, the sky above planet Sokka, which was filled with small teleportation wormholes, lit up with the morning light. In the markets and streets of the main city, the alien residents of various species gradually became active. However, it seemed that due to some unforeseen event last night, none of them had slept well and were discussing the relevant topics in a lively manner. In the main city's inner city, in a room on the 5th floor of the Starship Hotel. "Mr. Kale. Mr. Kale, it's time to wake up." At the first glimmer of dawn, Bo knocked on Kale's master's door, its claws scratching against the metal door until they were sharp and ear-piercing. The AI-controlled door slowly opened. Kale, who was wearing plain pajamas, had sleepy eyes. His tall body blocked the door to the room as he yawned and asked, "It's so early, what's all the ruckus about?" "Mr. Kale, did you really fall asleep last night? Did you not notice anything unusual outside?" Bo looked at Kale in disbelief. It had faint dark circles under its eyes and looked dispirited. Even the texture of its white fur had become much worse. "Last night?" When Kale heard this, a strange ripple flashed through his eyes. He lied through his teeth and replied, "After I returned to my room and took a shower, I fell asleep very quickly. It's probably the time difference between the stars. I slept very soundly." "What happened?" "Fine, I guess you're the only one in the entire city who fell asleep." Bo shrugged helplessly and said seriously, "Late last night, I don't know who caused trouble in the main city of Sokka. The city's guards seemed to have gone crazy and flew all over the streets in spaceships, saying that they were catching criminals. Catching criminals is one thing, but they even chased them from the outer city to the inner city, from the main city's south gate to the main city's north gate." Bo sighed and looked pitifully at its back, wagging its tail left and right. "They wouldn't let a bear sleep at all. My fur has lost its luster." "Did they catch the criminal?" Kale asked with slight interest. "No. If they did, would the guards still have issued wanted posters all over the city in the morning?" As Bo spoke, he reached into the small backpack behind his back and took out a wanted poster with a photo attached to it. Kale took the wanted poster and read it. The picture was of the alley with the blood stains and the corpse of the big-eyed monster as the background. The main character was him, wearing a Black Panther helmet and combat uniform, and the night elf, whose whole body was covered by a veil and a cloak. Only her slim figure could be seen. The top criminal is the one wearing the animal mask. The bounty on his head is as high as 1 million. The woman beside him only has a bounty of 100,000, which is equivalent to an additional bounty. Bo's expression was complicated as he stared straight at Kale, as if he wanted to see something from his face. He was both happy and doubtful as he said, "The big-eye monster that went against us last night was killed, and 2 of our companions were seriously injured. I heard that they were sent to the duel arena after treatment." "Isn't that good?" Kale chuckled inexplicably and returned the warrant to Bo, not allowing him to refuse. "I'll change my clothes, take me around Sokka City later. I'm willing to serve you." Bo obeyed and bowed his head, like a gentleman performing a standard salute. "I don't know where this Star Ruthless came from, he's so fierce." Bo thought to himself as he patted his chest and let out a long breath. Anyone with a bit of intelligence would understand that how could there be such a coincidence. After the room closed, Kale turned around and his gaze fell on the combat uniform and Black Panther helmet hanging on the hanger. The guard spaceships last night were too difficult to deal with. They had infrared and sonic detection and other locking functions. He took the guards around the city a few times, and in the end he had to use stealth and blink to escape half a mile away before he was able to completely shake them off. Without venom, many movements were far less convenient than before. Otherwise, with simple camouflage and stealth, it would have been easy to shake off the pursuit of the guard spaceships. Venom? Kale softly muttered. After living with Venom for so long, he was used to having it by his side. Now that they were separated, he really felt a little uncomfortable. After changing into a hood and jeans, Kale and Bo went out together. Bo acted as a tour guide. After seeing Kale's strength and financial resources, he seemed to have the idea of hugging his thigh and told him everything he knew about Kale's problems. After finishing the delicious meal in the inner city, Bo took Kale to the market at the junction of the inner city and outer city. Don't miss it when you pass by. From the high-tech products of advanced civilizations to the genetic serum of the ancient Protoss, everything you need is here. Only $9.98, a star core energy crystal gem to take home. A divine weapon that has been appraised by an elite scavenger boss. It's a huge discount. As long as you buy it, you'll make a profit. The main market in the middle of a mountain of garbage was very lively. Dozens of large and small private stalls were lined up as far as the eye could see. Extraterrestrial residents in luxurious clothes and scavengers in ragged clothes mingled together, looking at the goods with great interest. Bo introduced to Kale, Planet Sokka as the center of the universe's garbage dump. The most important thing is resources. It can be said that this is the universe's largest junk black market. People come here every day to search for treasures. Isn't this the same as the exchange office? Kale asked in surprise. Of course it's not the same. The exchange office was opened by a Grand Master, and although it's reliable, it will deduct the processing fee. Moreover, for some items that are not in the known database and cannot be appraised, they will usually give a low price. Bo smiled and said, "This is the charm of the black market. Here you can find priceless treasures at a low price, and more likely find a pile of useless alien trash." Kale suddenly realized this was a bit like the stone gambling and antique markets on Earth. However, although the two were similar in nature, the stalls in Sokka's black market sold unknown items from all over the universe. It's said that searching for treasures in the black market requires eyesight and knowledge. But in reality, who has the knowledge of the entire universe? Even the universe's elders dare not say that they can appraise most of the items in the black market. Therefore, the people who come here all want to try their luck and feel. Bo said this and kindly reminded Kale, the merchants who set up the stalls are mostly scavengers. They all want to scam a sum of money, selling and boasting. Just take a look, it's best if you don't buy. Kale nodded, seeing strange items from all over the universe. It was good to broaden one's horizons. Following the crowd, Kale and Bo approached the first stall. The stall was simply covered with a thick black cloth on the ground. On it were a dozen or so strange goods of all sizes. The owner of the stall was a short old man with bare arms. "Yo, isn't this Bo?" The old stall owner greeted him warmly, holding up a black shining bone. "You brought a customer? Let me introduce you to a new product, the memory crystal of an ancient race. Seeing that we are old acquaintances, it's only 1,000. Scram, don't try to scam me with alien trash." Bo angrily scolded. Kale's face was calm as he walked within 3 meters, looking at the various goods on the stall, his mind subconsciously focused. Chapter 167. In Kale's field of vision, the item card information began to appear on the strange goods on the ground. Heru Beast Bone Fragment. The remains of a Heru Beast's rib. White item card. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the rib remains of the Heru Beast, a native of Planet 020 in Galaxy X. Due to eating the dark plants, even the rib bones began to glow with a black light over time. Current status. Another person's item for sale, unable to draw. This was the information of the old stall owner's items that claimed to be the remains of an ancient race. It wasn't just this one. Kale's gaze continued. Dragon frog slime, broken star ingot, minotaur excrement, heart tribe handicraft. Within a 3-meter radius, within the range of his mind, the color, level, and detailed information of the items could be seen at a glance. This is... Kale was stunned. So it wasn't just the items without an owner. As long as the items with an owner were put up for sale, the information of the cards could be seen. It was just that he couldn't draw them. Narrowing his eyes, Kale calmed himself down. He pointed at the 2 black ores on the ground and asked casually, "What are these?" When the old stall owner heard the question, he hurriedly put down the Heru Beast bone fragment he was selling and looked at Kale with admiration. He said excitedly, "This customer has good eyes. You can even see the most valuable item I have here." Kale was slightly shocked. However, the old stall owner's next sentence made him feel that his worries were unnecessary. "These are the first black stones that were formed during the Big Bang. They contain a mysterious energy and are extremely hard. Even if you put them in a furnace at 3,000 degrees they won't melt. Bullshit, these are just 2 broken stones from the astral wilderness. Bai Bo cursed fiercely. The old stall owner rubbed his nose awkwardly and said expectantly, "If you want to buy them, I'll sell them to you for 5,000. 5,000? These broken stones?" Before Bai Bo could finish, Kale nodded and said confidently, "I'll buy them." Bai Bo's expression froze. The old stall owner also hesitated for half a second before he quickly packed up the 2 stones. With a smile on his face he said, "Deal. Mr. Kale, are you really going to buy this thing?" Bai Bo opened his mouth wide and looked at Kale in disbelief. Kale nodded, snapped his fingers and said with certainty, "Pay up, take your things and leave." Bai Bo wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he sighed helplessly, picked up the packaged goods and paid with cash. "Take care. You're welcome to come again." The old stall owner's laughter could be heard behind him. Bai Bo carried the items and quickly caught up with Kale. He did not understand what was going on and said gloomily, "Mr. Kale, why did you buy 2 broken stones?" "I like it." Kale shrugged. He was so happy that he almost laughed out loud. The stall owner, the seller, Bai Bo, and even everyone else thought that he had made a loss. In fact, only he knew how much benefit he had gained. Shattered star ingot. An extremely rare metal ore. Rare blue item card. A metal ore formed by the mutation of a planet's core in an unknown region. It is hard and difficult to destroy. It can be used to forge weapons and tools. It has the property of sharp star. Sharp star. It absorbs the dark matter energy in the universe and releases a strike as bright as a meteor. Just the metal ore alone has reached the rare blue grade. It's 1 grade higher than vibranium metal. How strong will the equipment made from it be? It's a pity that these 2 small pieces can't even be used to forge a dagger. Kale felt a little regretful, but he quickly laughed. After all, he had bought them at a cheap price. One should not be too greedy. The card drawing system can identify all the information of the goods. To me, this Saka black market is a shopping paradise. Kale looked at the alien star stall in front of him. It was as if he was looking at a treasure trove, waiting for him to open it. Everyone else was blind. Only he had his eyes open, and he could pick out gold from the vast expanse of sand with a single glance. After that, Kale went into a shopping frenzy. He would stop at every stall, ignoring the stall owner's promotion and Bai Bo's persuasion. It was as if he only followed his heart and bought whatever he saw. After a short while, after shopping through more than half of the stalls, Bai Bo's small body was almost crushed by the goods he bought. He looked at his wallet that was getting thinner and thinner, and followed behind Kale with a bitter face. Kale was expressionless. He did not stop walking and showed signs of continuing to shop. At this time, the stall owners and residents of the black market also knew that a rich man had come. He was the kind of person who was stupid but had a lot of money. When they looked at Kyle and Bai Bo, their gazes were filled with an indescribable feeling that they could only feel. "Mr. Kale, it's about time for today. I'm almost out of the 70,000 cash I have with me." Bai Bo's face was sad. His hands were full of packed bags and the goods in his backpack were about to explode. In other people's eyes, these were all useless alien trash. What else could a person be if they were not stupid but had a lot of money to spend tens of thousands to buy meaningful trash? Kale muttered to himself and said, "Okay, let's go to the last stall." "You said it." Bai Bo heaved a sigh of relief. Since it was the last stall, Kale glanced left and right. When he saw that there was no one at the stall, he quickly stepped forward. Just as he was 3 meters away, he moved his mind slightly, and the relevant card information appeared before his eyes one after another. Almost instantly, Kale's pupils contracted. He stared at an item, unable to move his eyes away. At this moment, even his strong and tenacious state of mind was shaken. Kale pretended to be calm. He squatted down and looked at it with a burning gaze at a close distance. The item was huge, similar to a huge axe. The 2 sides of the axe were completely broken off, leaving only the 1-meter-long handle carved with ancient patterns and half of the axe's tip. This damaged axe was made of a simple and unadorned dark gold. It was stained with congealed golden bloodstains. "Child, you didn't even wipe the bloodstains off this item before putting it up. Did you pick it up from a pile of corpses?" Bai Bo complained. The stall owner was indeed a thin and weak pink alien child. He said timidly, "I wiped it, but the blood can't be wiped clean. My sister said this is the blood of the deity race." "Deity race?" Bai Bo snorted disdainfully. Everyone knew that the deity race was an ancient life form in the universe. They were even more ancient than the universe's elders. They had many forms: humans, beasts, planets, and even nothingness. Therefore, as long as one had a relationship with the deity race, they could greatly increase their pretentiousness. "How much is this?" Kale asked calmly. The pink child stretched out a finger and said while gritting his teeth, "My sister said the minimum is 1 million. 1 million? Bo was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. "I finally know why no one comes here. 1 million, are you going to rob me?" "Okay, I'll buy it," Kale said in a deep voice without the slightest hesitation. Not to mention 1 million, even if it was 10 million or 30 million, he would buy it without hesitation. Chapter 168. 1 million Saka dollars. This was a sky-high price in the black market. It was enough to buy a safe house in the inner city of Saka where the competition for resources was huge. What's more, the goods they were selling were unknown tattered axes. Fortunately, the place where the child's stall was located was empty. Otherwise, this transaction would have caused an uproar among the people in the black market. "Mr. Kale. 1 million Saka dollars, you want to buy this tattered axe? Think about it again. Even if you have money, you can't spend it like this." Bo approached Kale and persuaded him in a low voice. It originally thought that Kale was just interested and bought some novelty items in the black market on a whim. It didn't expect that at this time he would be willing to pay such a high price for a tattered axe. Kale ignored Bo. He squatted down and placed his right palm on the broken handle of the large axe. He gently stroked the strange patterns on the surface. The hard and cold feeling was clearly transmitted to his hand. Not only that, there was also a primitive charm that came from fighting, killing, the intersection of iron and blood. Kale closed his eyes and ignored the noise in the black market. He immersed his heart and mind in feeling. He seemed to see a cruel war in the ancient battlefield of the universe. Extraordinary beings fought and killed. Even the gods and the myths could fall on the spot if they were not careful. It was a game of chess between the higher races. In order to dominate the territory of this universe, whether it was the scale of the alien race's military force or their individual strength, weapons, and equipment, it was far more than any battle in World War II on Earth. "This axe, where did you get it?" Opening his eyes, Kale asked in a deep voice. His eyes flashed as if he thought of something. "Half a year ago, I picked it up from the garbage river in the wild. Just to bring it back to the inner city, my sister and I rented a medium-sized fishing spaceship." After the alien child finished speaking, he seemed to be afraid that Kale would suddenly go back on the deal. He quickly asked, "You really want to buy it?" "Of course. But I don't have that much cash on me. All the money is in the trading card," Kale answered honestly. "I will inform my sister now. She will bring the credit card payment device over. Please wait a moment." The alien kid was very excited. He hurriedly took out his communicator and sent out an urgent message. Seeing that the transaction was a done deal, Bo's ears and tail drooped, and he no longer tried to persuade him. After all, Kale was the one paying for it. He could do whatever he wanted with it. 1 million. Bo was just distressed. He sighed inwardly about how much trash he had to pick up in order to get it back. About 5 minutes later, Kyle, who was waiting in front of the stall, raised his head and saw a small Quinjet flying out of the inner city. It was glowing brightly as it approached the stall. Finally, it stopped at a low altitude of 10 meters directly above his head. The child waved at the floating Kuan airship and said with a smile, "My sister is here." The door of the spaceship opened quickly, and a pink-skinned woman in a work uniform came down the elevator. The alien kid was about to go up and talk when the woman pulled his ear and said in a dissatisfied tone, "Don't you know your sister is at work? You even used the emergency communicator to call me. Give me a good explanation. If your answer doesn't satisfy me, there will be no food for you tonight." "Wah, stop pulling. Sister, there is an important customer here." The alien kid begged in pain. The alien woman looked forward. When she saw Kale in front of the stall, her face was suddenly filled with surprise. She hesitated for a moment and hurriedly let go of her hand. She politely greeted, "Mr. Kale, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here." "It is quite a coincidence." Kale nodded. The alien woman in front of him was the one he met at the exchange center last night. She was the receptionist named In Lee. That's right. Sister and brother were both pink-skinned mutants. There was nothing wrong with that. "Sister, this customer wants to buy that axe," the alien kid whispered. "What?" And Lee thought she heard wrong. She took a deep breath and nervously grabbed the kid's arm. She asked seriously, "What price did you offer? Did you miss out on a few zeros?" Before the kid could answer, Kale smiled and urged, "It's already settled. 1 million Saka dollars. If you brought the payment device, then just swipe your card." The payment device made a beeping sound, indicating that the 1 million had been successfully transferred. The surprise came too suddenly. And Lee was still in a dreamy state. She pinched the alien kid next to her as if to check if she was dreaming. "The money has been paid. Then I'll take the item and leave," Kale smiled faintly. For him, money and wealth were just worldly possessions. As long as he could increase his strength, then any price was worth it. "Of course, please," and Lee quickly nodded. Kale grabbed the handle of the axe with his right hand. He wanted to pick up the axe, but no matter how hard he tried, the broken axe lying across the stall didn't move at all. Kale's face changed slightly. The weight of the broken axe was far beyond his imagination. One had to know that he had 10 times the strength of a human's bowl. He had over a ton of strength with a single hand. He could even lift a 2-meter-wide rock with ease. "Ah, Mr. Kale, I forgot to tell you. This axe is abnormally heavy. Even the stone man known for his brute strength couldn't move it. We need to use a transport ship to transport it," and Lee said apologetically. "What kind of abnormal creature would use such a heavy axe?" Bo said in shock. And Lee said in a serious tone, "That's why I set such a high price. Even if we can't sell it, according to my many years of experience, the previous owner of this axe might really have been some higher life form that called themselves gods." Taking a deep breath, Kale once again held the axe handle with both hands. "Mr. Kale, this axe really can't be moved. I'll use a ship to help you transport it back." And Lee saw this and suggested, "I'll give it a try." Firmly holding the axe handle, Kale's face was calm. His feet were firmly planted on the ground. His tall and sturdy body's muscles swelled, causing his hood to bulge. Kale exerted strength with both hands. The axe that was left with only the handle trembled slightly. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of Lee and the others, it was slowly lifted up. He had only lifted it half a meter high when the axe fell from his hand and smashed into the ground with a heavy explosion. Dust flew up and the cement floor below collapsed, forming an axe-shaped depression. "This is too scary." Bo was secretly speechless. He was so scared that his hair stood on end. Was this thing really a weapon? The one who was even more shocked was Lee. She was very clear that the axe's weight was a terrifying number. The other party could lift it up slightly. He could already be considered a human with a natural talent for strength. "I'll have to trouble you to use a ship to transport it," Kale said helplessly. Chapter 169. And Lee used the spaceship to transport the broken axe to Kale's hotel before returning to the exchange center. All sorts of items purchased from the black market were placed messily on the table in the room. It was obvious that the owner was not in the mood to take care of them. Kale sat alone on the bed, holding an item card glowing with purple light between his fingers. His eyes were filled with complex emotions as he fell into deep thought. Unknown battle axe. A severely damaged, unknown one-handed battle axe. Rare purple ability card. The axe's tip was made from the Divine Territories metal and the core of a planet that was about to decline. The handle was made from the wood of the world tree. It was a one-handed battle axe forged by the exquisite craftsmanship of the dwarves. The original battle axe could be summoned from the owner and could be stacked with the owner's energy. The explosive slash could split mountains and the earth. It was severely damaged and had lost all its original functions. It had been stained with the blood of ancient monsters and gods for a long time. It had a powerful aura that was hard to erase and could easily affect the owner's mind. This was the detailed information of the broken axe and the main reason why Kale was so fascinated. It was in a severely damaged state. Just the rare materials alone were enough to maintain it as a rare purple item. This one-handed battle axe, before it was damaged, was undoubtedly beyond the purple category and was an orange-grade divine weapon. Of course, just finding a broken divine weapon was not enough to make Kale ponder for so long. The important thing was the information brought by the broken axe. Divine Territories metal, world tree, and dwarven craftsmanship. The materials and craftsmanship of this axe are too similar to Thor's hammer. It's as if they were forged at the same time, Kale thought. The broken axe and Thor's hammer had too many similarities. Even some of their functions were the same. He would not believe that this broken axe did not come from the Divine Territory. Divine Territory Asgard, Kale whispered as he stared at the broken axe item card. His eyes were filled with yearning and longing. Initially, when he decided to leave Earth for the galaxy, the first place he thought of was Asgard, the Divine Territory's immortal palace where the Asgard gods lived. The Asur race was now a top-notch race that ruled this universe. Their lifespan was as long as tens of thousands of years, and they were once described in Norse mythology on Earth. The Rainbow Bridge could cross the universe at will, and with the help of the artifact they could go to heaven and Earth. Their appearances were no different from human beings, but their physical qualities were dozens of times better than human beings. They also possessed supernatural abilities that were similar to the laws of thunder and death. They were the race of gods in name and in reality. Unlike the deity race that was first born in the universe, Kale judged that the Asur race should be the most evolved advanced intelligent race in the Marvel universe. It should also be one of the final directions of human evolution on Earth. Compared to the Dark Elves, Kale was more interested in the Asur race's Vitality ability card. Ability cards that affected one's physique needed to be carefully selected. As of now, Kale only had 2 physique ability cards, Self-Healing Factor and Super Soldier. This type of ability card wasn't about the complexity of the quantity, but about the compatibility between genes. For example, the Alien Physique ability card of the Big-Eyed Monster. Since it was a blue grade, Kale could naturally draw it. But once he drew it, he would obtain the Big-Eyed Monster's natural ability, and his body's genetic structure would also be transformed into a part of the Big-Eyed Monster's race. His eyes might become bigger, and his skin would become similar to the Big-Eyed Monster's color. The Asur race, just from the appearance and ability, is simply a deified version of human beings. It should be the most suitable physique ability card to be integrated with Super Soldier. Kale clenched his fists and muttered to himself. When he knew that he had arrived at planet Sokka, Kale had reluctantly given up on obtaining the Thor race's physique ability card. He planned to find another suitable race more than 5 months ago to replace it. Until now, the broken axe that he had bought from the black market had reignited his hope. To be able to use the one-handed battle axe produced by the same type as Thor's hammer and use it to fight ancient monsters and the deity race, the owner of this axe must also be from the Asur race. Kale's heart trembled slightly and he thought excitedly for no reason. Half a year ago this broken axe fell here. As the owner of the axe, is it possible that the god is not dead and is still living on this planet? Although it was just a hypothesis, it was enough for Kale to be willing to give up everything to investigate. If he could succeed and steal the Asur race's physique ability card, then he would be a superhuman, becoming a god in all aspects, and be on par with the gods. Before Kale could exit from his thoughts, a lively music suddenly came from outside the hotel window. The huge sound waves formed a substantial wave that slapped against his eardrums. What's going on? Frowning slightly, Kale kept the item card back into the card space, sat up from the bed and walked to the window. Outside the window, in the middle of Sokka's main city, there was a tall and majestic central building panel. Under the holographic projection technology, the light rays formed a projection of the Grandmaster that was 100 meters tall. The Grandmaster's appearance also resembled a human, and he looked like a white-haired uncle. He was wearing a luxurious suit, gently and calmly spreading his hands, looking down at the entire Sokka's main city. The loudspeakers on the streets broadcast his words, "Dear residents of Sokka Planet. Today is the day for the warm-up of the final championship match. I welcome all of you to come to the arena and accompany me to watch the most hot-blooded, brutal and passionate life and death duel." As soon as he finished, the passionate music resounded through every corner of Sokka's main city. At the same time, the various aliens on the streets were cheering, welcoming a major holiday as they walked through the streets towards the arena behind the central building. As Kale opened the door, Bo, who was in the lobby, was eager to move, jumping and running in front of him. "Mr. Kale, Sokka Planet's duel arena has begun." Bo shouted. The expression on his beastly face was also very excited, his squirrel-like white tail wagging non-stop as he explained, "This is a grand event personally organized by the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster likes to gather combatants from all over the universe, put them together and force them into a one-on-one life or death duel. Only the final victor will be granted freedom. This is the most popular event of this planet's residents. Gathering combatants from all over the universe. Come, let's go take a look." Kale nodded as he wished, also becoming interested in the duel arena. He had a feeling that this duel arena might contain information about the owner of the broken axe that he wanted to investigate. Chapter 170. The preliminaries for the championship match were about to begin. Like the arrival of a grand festival, all the alien life forms on planet Sokka became restless. Whether it was the residents of the inner city or the scavengers of the outer city, they all put down their work without hesitation. They didn't plan on missing the preliminaries, even if it was just a warm-up. Their expressions were fanatical as they whistled and held up their favorite champion's support signs. Some of the fanatics even painted their faces and clothes to match the color of the contestants. They gathered in groups on the main street of the city and swarmed toward the duel venue. In the sky above Sokka's main city, dozens of guard spaceships were spaced apart. With Sokka's central building as the center, they formed a net that covered an area of 1 kilometer in the sky. They firmly dominated the air and used light beams and broadcasts to guide the crowd below to enter the arena. Kale and Baibo had just walked out of the hotel when they directly merged into the crowd of people on the main street. All around them were strange-looking aliens, and the sound of revelry tightly clashed with the two. Among the alien crowd, Kale couldn't help but be infected by the lively atmosphere. The alien life forms were clearly addicted and looking forward to the upcoming championship match from the bottom of their hearts. The degree of fanaticism was no less than the World Cup fans on Earth. As long as there's a match in the arena, this planet Sokka built on trash will be lit with life and vitality. Baibo said with a sigh. The local alien life form residents seemed to be using this opportunity to release their primitive nature of pursuing the strong and killing. At the same time, they could also eliminate the boredom of being trapped on this caged planet. Kale nodded in understanding. It wasn't just to pass the time. Evolving and becoming stronger was the common goal of all life in the universe. On this planet, there were lost alien life forms from all over the universe. Putting them together to perform a life and death duel to determine the winner was something that all life forms loved to see. The arena was located behind the central building. It was a giant interstellar stadium with a cylindrical structure. It had a radius of 500 meters including the steel outer wall. The center was open air and it emitted bright lights all around and into the sky. At this time, looking down from the sky, one could see that all the life forms on the planet were like densely packed ants, rushing into the arena from all directions. Afraid of being stepped on by the crowd, the short Baibo grabbed onto Kale's shoulder and hung in the air like a bag. It looked at the huge arena and sighed. The starry sky duel arena can accommodate 200,000 spectators at a time. In another half an hour, more than 80% of the planet's biological inhabitants will be housed here. When Kale heard this terrifying number, he smacked his lips in shock. It was estimated that only the Sokka star, the morbid lost land, could have such an unprecedented viewing experience that would make the local residents crazy to the extreme. When he arrived at the entrance of the stadium, Kale was surprised to find that the tickets were divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. The price was based on the level of the area near the top, far and high. Even the last row seats cost 500 Sokka dollars. Baibo, who usually valued money more than anything else, was not stingy this time. He bought a ticket worth 1,000 yuan with him. Perhaps this is the charm of the championship duel. Kale shook his head. He saw that many of the ragged scavengers who could not even afford to stay in hotels were more enthusiastic than anyone when it came to buying tickets. For the creatures of this planet, the duel tickets were probably a necessity. They could use it to feel the meaning of their lives. After passing through the alien security inspection, Kale and Baibo were seated according to their tickets. Their seats were located in the front row of the stadium's second-floor area. Looking down, they had a good view of the circular and vast duel arena. In Baibo's words, the viewing experience from the 3rd to the 10th floor was worse. The first floor area in front was sometimes dangerous, so the second floor was the best viewing area. Kale sat in his seat and looked around. The interstellar stadium's seats were mostly filled with extraterrestrial spectators. The competition had not yet officially started, but the audience was already cheering with passion. Their burning gazes fell on the concrete arena below. This is still the preliminaries. If it was the championship, how exaggerated would it be? What kind of talents would the challengers have? Kale lightly clenched his fist. His heart was also affected by the atmosphere, thumping powerfully. Up until now, he had not done any specific research on the extraterrestrial races. The large-eyed monster he killed could only be considered a trash with a combat strength of 5. With his current body, the perfect ideal super soldier physique of Earth's humans, including the hundreds of battle techniques on Earth, what level could his combat strength barely rank in the universe? Kale's heart was very anxious. It just so happened that through the duel on planet Sokka, he could use it to understand the general combat strength of various parts of the universe. After knowing himself and the enemy, he would have a better idea of what to do. Before he could think too much, there was a burst of loud cheers from the audience. More than 10 miniature flying devices flashed into the arena, projecting lights above the duel arena and piecing together a full-body projection of the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster's projection looked around and said with an amiable smile, Ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful performance is about to begin. Is everyone happy? What answered him was the deafening cheers of the entire interstellar arena. I am your host. Please give your applause to the challengers who are about to die in the preliminaries. Their spirit and hot-bloodedness are worthy of praise. The Grandmaster chuckled and spread out his hands. I hope everyone is the same as me. Today's trip was not in vain. Grandmaster. Kale's eyes moved slightly. He raised his head to look at the highest point of the arena. There was a special viewing platform with floor-to-ceiling glass windows. The Grandmaster himself and his trusted guards should be up there. Without further ado, I announce the official start of the competition. Now let's invite all the challengers of the preliminaries to enter. After the Grandmaster finished speaking, the projection waved his hand downwards. On the sides of the duel arena, the 4 steel doors on the 4 sides slowly opened. Under the cheers of the crowd, countless shadows moved within the 4 doors. All kinds of challengers quickly rushed out from within. They were either wearing armor and holding weapons or were empty-handed. They revealed their wild beast-like bodies, roaring as they stepped into the duel arena. Is this preliminaries a group battle? Kale asked in surprise. Baibo nodded and replied, that's right. After all, in the preliminaries the difference in strength between the challengers is too great. It takes too much time to fight one-on-one, so a group battle will eliminate most of them first. Chapter 171. The champion who had dominated the Saka duel arena for a long time? Kale was slightly stunned. He seemed to have obtained important information from Baibo's mouth, but before he could delve deeper, the alien crowd around him began to shout aggressively. They were so excited that even their faces were distorted, emitting the hostility that had been accumulating for a long time. Kill. Quickly fight. Eliminate, eliminate. If you want to live, kill other creatures. Under the collective urging of more than 100,000 alien crowd. On the duel arena, the number of challengers released from the underground prison had increased to nearly 100. They came to the duel arena where the lights were focused. They didn't speak too much, and their murderous auras were on guard against the other challengers around them. Only the 4 challengers standing at the end could continue to survive, and on the life and death duel arena, elimination meant death. This was the rule set by the Grand Master, and also the supreme law of planet Saka. In the duel arena, a humanoid challenger was the first to scream, but he was attacked from behind by a giant 2-headed snake. The 2-headed snake's upper body straightened its 2 heads. One of its mouths bit his head, and the other bit his struggling feet. It helped to stuff him into its mouth, swallowing the living prey. In less than 3 seconds, the humanoid challenger had completely disappeared, and he was swallowed into the snake's belly along with his armor. The giant 2-headed snake spat out its blood-red tongue, and its silver vertical pupils coldly stared at the other challengers. Its tail slapped the floor with a sizzling sound, making people's scalps tingle. This horrifying scene of being swallowed alive ignited the cheers of the crowd in the audience, and it also made the chaotic group battle on the duel arena completely on the verge of breaking out. Mr. Kale looked. Baibo seemed to have discovered something by accident. It raised its claws and happily pointed to a corner of the duel arena. Kale looked in the direction it was pointing at. At the edge of the fierce melee, a green monster with big eyes was shivering on the ground, wearing a full set of steel armor. Wasn't that the leader of the Big Eyes monster that he had seriously injured last night? Many of the challengers are actually slaves and criminals captured by the Grand Masters. If they want to exchange for their freedom, they have to fight to the end in the arena and defeat the final champion. Baibo smiled and squinted his eyes meaningfully. It's impossible to hide until the end without fighting. Not long after Baibo finished speaking, a 2-meter-tall brownstone man ran past, holding a spiked club full of steel nails, and smashed it on the body of the Big Eye monster leader on the ground. After the attack, the stone golem didn't even look at it. It carried the blood-stained spiked club and left, charging into the battle once again. On the floor, the leader of the Big Eye monsters had turned into a pile of meat paste. Its armor was completely deformed and sunk into the ground, and disgusting green blood kept flowing out. Awesome. Baibo chuckled. It had been a long time since it saw Eye Monster as an eyesore. Kale also shook his head. With the cruel rules of the arena, in this kind of group melee, the first to die would definitely be the weak creatures that avoided the battle. Because there were 4 places to live, the strong challengers would definitely avoid each other consciously. They would pick the weak ones and keep crushing them. After enough challengers were eliminated, they would be safe. It was the same principle as raising poisonous insects. The weak were prey to the strong and the weak were eliminated. The ones that survived were the strongest and most powerful fighting creatures. Kale watched the arena where the battles and killings were taking place. The battles between creatures of different races in the universe were really an eye-opener for him. It was far from the experience of fighting beasts and insects on Earth. He saw a burly man carrying a steel-spiked club the size of half a car. His muscles and skin were all rough and stony. He swung the steel-spiked club with a whistling sound, and his strength easily reached several tons. He hammered a 4-meter-tall giant into bloody meat paste. He saw a man with scythe-shaped hands. He was tall and thin like a mantis. His body movements were agile, and his speed had reached supersonic speed. He suddenly chopped a stone man known for its strength and defense into 2 halves. He also saw an alien child with flesh-colored tentacles all over his body and black and red eyes. He broke out with an extraordinary self-healing ability. His tentacles elongated and turned into sharp weapons, respectively piercing the frogman and eye monster into dried corpses. In 10 minutes, more than half of the hundreds of challengers had been eliminated. The eliminated creatures turned into corpses and wreckage on the arena. Red, green, black, and purple blood stains of different colors intertwined together, graffiti on the arena's scarred floor. At the same time, the chaotic battle had reached its climax. The cheers from the audience were getting louder and more intense. "We've completely won back the ticket price. The quality of this year's challengers is very high." Baibo sighed and waved his claws excitedly. "Only the monster-like creatures in the universe can stand until the end in this arena." Kale nodded in agreement. The glimmer in his eyes flickered, and he felt a certain amount of pressure from it. The combat level of the alien creatures in the arena was far beyond his expectations. The challengers who were immersed in the battle for survival could only fight with all their strength and use the talents and abilities of their own race to have a chance of survival. Even if he had the strength of a ruler on Earth, if he was in the same arena, he would also die on the spot if he was not careful. 15 minutes later. The arena was littered with alien creatures' corpses. Broken weapons and colorful blood spilled all over the ground. It was a terrifying scene from hell. Suddenly, the remaining 10 challengers stopped at the same time. They had gone through fierce elimination battles. No matter how strong they were, their bodies were also injured. They glanced at each other coldly and fell into a short standoff. There are still 8 left. The climax of this duel is here. Baibo held his breath and said, "That's right." Kale agreed with this point of view. The challengers in the arena had been reduced to less than 10. At this time, the creatures that could survive in the arena were no longer weaklings that were easy to deal with. As long as each of them found another opponent, it would be enough to eliminate them. Kale's face was serious and dignified. He looked at the arena and memorized the appearances and talents of the creatures of different races. The attack methods they were good at, their fatal weaknesses, their unique and powerful attack methods, and their unexpectedly tough and durable defense skills were all inhuman. They were definitely at the level of monsters. As long as Kale was outside of Earth, he would encounter them one day. Chapter 172. Under the bright lights of the spaceship and the interstellar stadium, on the bloody and tragic duel arena. Including the giant 2-headed snake, the scythe man, the stone man, and the tentacle child, the 8 challengers confronted each other. The duel arena fell into a short silence for a while, forming a sharp contrast with the excitement of the audience outside the arena. The cheers of hundreds of thousands of alien spectators were boiling, and the sound waves almost overturned the entire arena. "Mr. Kale, which 4 do you think will survive to the end?" Baibo rubbed his claws and asked excitedly. Shaking his head, Kale narrowed his eyes slightly and said in a deep voice, "It's hard to say. So far, there must be some people who haven't shown their true strength. If you want to talk about who is more stable, the alien child with tentacles and the knife-hand man have a much higher chance of survival. They can basically advance to the top 4. Kale made a judgment based on his own experience. "Is that so? Then I'll bet." Baibo said and hurriedly took out an electronic device similar to a touchscreen phone. Kale shrugged and focused on the duel arena. The man's hands were like scythes. His hand blades were so sharp that they could easily cut steel armor in half. Furthermore, he had an explosive speed that exceeded the speed of sound. His terrifying physical attacks and movement speed made it so that even if he didn't take the initiative to attack and chose to avoid the battle, no one would be able to touch him even if he kept moving around the arena at high speed. As for the tentacle child, judging from the chaotic battle just now, strength, speed, combat skills, and resistance are all at the upper level, comparable to the naked Captain America. In addition, the flesh-colored tentacles can attack and defend, and can absorb other people's blood as nutrients for super-fast self-healing. Wait a minute. Kale suddenly stood up from the spectator seat and stared at the arena below. The tentacles on the child's body were constantly swaying. As if aware of his gaze, the tentacle child inadvertently raised his head and glanced at Kale's seat area with his emotionless dark blood-colored eyes. He quickly withdrew his gaze and focused on the surrounding challengers. Although separated by nearly 100 meters, Kale still felt a very familiar and strange feeling from the tentacle child. Is it an illusion? Kale muttered to himself. Hey, why are you standing up? How are we going to watch the competition? Blocked by Kale, who suddenly stood up, the alien audience in the back let out a dissatisfied curse and wanted to go forward to argue. Kale turned his head and swept his cold gaze behind him, emitting a faint sense of oppression. As if facing a brutal and powerful monster, the exuberant alien audience suddenly withered, not daring to look at him. I'm sorry, everyone. Bo hurriedly smoothed things over and pulled down Kale's trousers. Kale went along with it and sat back down in silence. Mr. Kale, what's wrong? Bo asked in surprise. It's fine. Let's continue watching the match. Kale replied with a calm face. His flickering eyes drifted back to the duel field. This time, his eyes were fixed on the tentacle child and did not move away at all. His heart was not as calm as it looked. On the duel field, the remaining 8 challengers finally moved together. They chose their opponents and divided the field into 4 small areas to fight. The opponent chosen by the tentacle child was a stone man carrying a mace. It sprinted and accelerated, kicking and bouncing. Its small body was like a heavy cannonball hitting the stone man. The more than a dozen tentacles on the surface of its body fluttered rhythmically like hair. Child, you dare to choose me as your opponent. Watch me smash you into meat paste. Seeing this, the stone man grimaced in anger. He held the huge mace with both hands and raised it like a baseball. After accumulating power, he swung it in front of his body. Under the injection of super-strong brute force, the huge and heavy mace blew a whistling gale, just blocking the path of the tentacle child. The audience exclaimed. They seemed to have seen the bloody scene of the tentacle child's petite body hitting the mace in the air and exploding. It's time to show your true ability. Kale saw this and whispered to himself. As if confirming his words, under the shocked gaze of countless alien audience, a pair of red wings suddenly stretched out from the back of the tentacle child. The wings tore open the shirt and flapped forward, causing the body to stop in the air. The stone man's face changed drastically. The mace he swung missed the tip of the child's nose and slammed on the ground with excessive force, making a dull and loud noise. The cement floor cracked and formed a dent. Seizing this opportunity, several tentacles suddenly shot forward and a long whip tightly wrapped around the stone man's neck. Damn it! The stone man roared and let go of the heavy mace. He grabbed the tentacles on his neck with one hand and stretched out the other hand to grab the tentacle child. The tentacle child's face was expressionless. He flapped his wings and glided away from the stone arm. He flew to the back of the stone man's head and stretched out his dark claws. He accurately pierced the stone man's eyes. 1/3 of the claws sank into the stone eye sockets and pierced the eyeballs. The fragile eyes were injured and the stone man couldn't help but scream. In pain, he finally grabbed the tentacle child's wrists with claws and pinched them with one hand. The tentacle child struggled hard, but it was obviously in vain. In terms of pure strength, the stone man was not weak at all. I've caught you, don't think about running away. The stone man closed his bleeding eyes and held the tentacle child's hands with all his strength. He raised them high and pulled off several tough tentacles wrapped around his neck with brute force. Die for me. The stone man roared and smashed the tentacle child in his hand to the ground. Gravel splashed and the cracked floor collapsed again. As if it was still worried, the stone golem repeatedly smashed the stone golem twice more before releasing its palm. The tentacle child fell to the ground in a coma, motionless. His wings were broken, his arms were almost dislocated and broken, and his body was covered with blood and wounds. The winner is me. The stone man raised his hands. His eye sockets were empty and bloody tears kept flowing. It was extremely tragic. The audience cheered loudly, but soon the cheers turned into exclamations. They looked in shock at the seriously injured tentacle child on the ground in front of the stone man. 2 fading black tentacles slowly rose from his body and pierced into the stone man's eye sockets when he was unprepared. The tentacles stirred quickly inside, enough to turn the brain into paste. The stone man's body stiffened and his laughter stopped. He lost his vitality and fell back to the ground. This sudden reversal made the audience burst into loud applause. Kyle was the only one in the audience who was frowning deeply, feeling anxious and doubtful. Chapter 173. Camouflage, gliding, claws, whips, tentacles. These extremely familiar abilities undoubtedly revealed the identity of the tentacle child on the field. Kale was very surprised. Venom. He actually appeared in the Sokka duel arena, and he was even attached to an alien child. He thought it would be a long time later, so he chose to establish a foothold on Sokka planet first, and then slowly search for Venom's traces later. Unexpectedly, Venom seemed to have come to Sokka planet much earlier than him, and even went to the duel arena. While he was pleasantly surprised, Kyle also had more doubts. If it's Venom, why doesn't he have the sense of connection with the creature summoned by the creature card? Moreover, Venom should be trying his best to find me. Why did he appear in the duel arena? Kale thought about it and couldn't think of a reasonable answer for a while. The creature summoned by the creature card will vaguely maintain a certain connection with the card master. Even on the Earth, a sense of existence can still be felt even if the distance is half a hemisphere. But at this time, Kale was sitting in the audience about 100 meters away, but he had no sense of connection with Venom in the field. If it weren't for the tentacle child's excessive abilities and skills, and the strong traces of his usual fighting style, then even if the other party passed by him, he wouldn't be able to detect it. Venom, how long before I arrived on this planet and what happened? Kale frowned uneasily. This was beyond the scope of his control. In the duel arena, two black tentacles detached from the stone man's eye sockets, swallowing and absorbing enough nutrients, feeding back to the alien child as the host. The alien child's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After the repair was completed, he opened his eyes and stood up as if nothing had happened, standing on the edge of the battlefield expressionlessly. This feeling, a puppet. Kale quietly clenched his fists, slightly surprised. It wasn't just the guidance of the mind, but the weak host creature was overbearingly like a puppet, completely occupying the initiative of the body and acting at will. When Nissan fought in Tokyo on Earth, Venom faintly showed this kind of talent ability, but he didn't care at that time, and he believed that with his strength, he wasn't afraid that Venom would betray him. Before things are clear, it's best not to make too many guesses. As long as there is a chance to come into contact with Venom again, everything will be answered. Exhaling lightly, Kale's brows relaxed. He leaned back in his seat and watched the rest of the challengers fight. He hoped that things weren't as bad as he had guessed, otherwise Venom? It seemed that he hadn't trained him enough. On the duel field, after the tentacle child finished killing the stone man, he stood on the edge of the battlefield and no one dared to provoke him. The other three small regional battles also came to an end. The scythe-wielding man won cleanly. Using supersonic speed and sharp hand blades, he toyed with a six-eyed monster in the palm of his hand. He was not in a hurry to behead his opponent. Instead, he was like a wild beast, enjoying the thrill of hunting and fighting, forcing his enemy bit by bit towards hell. The six-eyed monster, which was known for its dynamic vision and 360-degree defense without any blind spots, did not even touch the scythe-wielding man during the entire process. The scythe-wielding man spun it around at high speed, leaving slender wounds all over its body. Blood splattered everywhere until it was reduced to a corpse in despair. So strong. I've decided in the championship match, I will support Brother Knife. I hope he can go to the end and shake the ever-victorious champion. Bo let out a sigh of admiration. Kale nodded. The scythe-wielding man, this alien creature, was simply a combat race born for battle and killing. Even at this time he had no way to deal with it and could only escape. With supersonic movement speed, it would only take an instant for it to arrive behind you, and with a wave of its hand, it would complete the beheading. No matter how many combat skills there were, they could not withstand a supersonic slash. On the other side, the giant two-headed snake was even more barbaric and violent. A semi-mechanized creature was still treated as a meal. It was wrapped around the snake's waist that was as thick as a bucket and swallowed alive into the snake's belly. After it was completely swallowed, the mechanical creature could be seen wriggling violently in the snake's belly. After half a minute, it seemed to have been digested and calmed down. Finally, a strong tauren with a pair of sharp horns and a werewolf fought a bloody battle and won by relying on his rich combat experience. At this point, on the battlefield that was littered with corpses, only 4 challengers survived. They were the venomous child, the scythe-wielding man, the giant two-headed snake, and the tauren. The top 4 had been decided, which also represented the end of the preliminaries. As more than a dozen miniature flying machines entered the arena, a holographic projection of Grandmaster appeared above the arena. Grandmaster rubbed his palms and said with a smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, our dear top 4 contestants have been decided. I don't know if you have enjoyed watching. If you have, please give your applause to the winners and congratulate them for being able to live for another 3 days." Suddenly, the applause and cheers from the audience were like a tide. It doesn't matter if you haven't enjoyed it. In 3 days, our championship match will begin. At that time, these pitiful challengers will face an invincible creature, the King of Champions who has dominated the duel for half a year, Demon King. As soon as Grandmaster finished speaking, most of the alien audience in the audience were flushed red and shouted enthusiastically, "Champion Demon King! Champion Demon King!" This lineup almost caught up with my reputation in New York on Earth. Kale secretly complained and pondered for a moment before asking, "Who is the Champion Demon King?" Baibo took a deep breath and said solemnly, "It's the man codenamed Demon King. He has been in the duel for half a year and no matter what opponent he meets, he will ruthlessly crush the challengers with his terrifying strength. He is the symbol of strength and bloodlust, an invincible existence that has defeated all the creatures in the universe." Invincible existence. Kale frowned. This definition was too unstable and unreliable. However, he knew that the future Hulk had also been the champion for a long time and was basically invincible in the universe. The universe here is limited to the creatures lost on planet Sokka. Later, Thor, who fell here, barely defeated Hulk when he was not half awakened. In any case, creatures at the level of Hulk and Thor can really be called strong in the universe. Kale sighed. He was also looking forward to the championship match in 3 days. Was the champion Demon King really the original owner of that broken axe? And Venom? Thinking of this, Kale felt a slight headache. How to come into contact with Venom was really a long-term plan. Chapter 174. The top 4 challengers were supervised by the guards as they returned to the underground prison of the duel arena. The alien audience began to leave their seats in succession, leaving the arena as if they hadn't had enough. Kale watched the tentacle child leave until its figure disappeared through the entrance of the duel arena. Only then did he come back to his senses. "Mr. Kale, we should leave as well." Baibo tugged at his clothes as he called out. "Baibo, do you have any way for me to meet the challengers in the underground prison of the duel arena?" Kale looked at Baibo as he asked casually. "You want to meet the challengers? I can't help you with that." Baibo shrugged helplessly as he explained, "They're called challengers, but that's just a nicer way to put it. In reality, their identities are only the lowest level of criminals and slaves on planet Sokka, the private property of the Grand Master. Unless they have a close relationship with the Grand Master, no one can come into contact with the challengers." "It looks like I'll have to use other methods." Kale sighed inwardly, but his face was as calm as ever. He didn't seem to care too much as he stood up from his seat and said, "Let's go, we'll come back in 3 days. Baibo was stunned for a moment before he began to giggle. "Mr. Kale, you've also fallen in love with the champions match, haven't you? Like I said, planet Sokka is just too boring. After coming here, no one can resist the attraction of the champions match." Kale nodded lightly. Although his focus was different from Baibo's, he was indeed very interested in the champions match. The 2 of them were the last batch of audience members to leave. After they left behind the silent and empty interstellar duel arena, as well as the colorful bloodstains and alien corpses that littered the arena. After leaving the duel arena with Baibo, Kale was just about to head back to the hotel, but he hadn't even taken a few steps when the humming of a ship's engine came from above him. "The seller of that broken axe is here. Maybe he thinks you're a sucker and wants to scam you again," Baibo said in a low voice. Kale looked up and saw that it was indeed Enli's personal spaceship. It had a distinctive pink logo on it, and it came to a rapid stop right above them. The smart door opened and Enli's little brother poked his little pink head out of the cabin. He smiled at Kale and said, "Mr. Kale, my sister wants to treat you to afternoon tea." Before Kale could reply, Baibo, who was beside him, crossed his arms and wagged his tail back and forth, snorting coldly with slight dissatisfaction. As if he had heard something, Enli's younger brother turned around and listened attentively. Then he smiled and continued to pass on the message. "My sister said that she would like to invite Mr. Baibo along with Mr. Kale." "That's more like it." Baibo nodded proudly. Kale glanced at it and reminded it coldly, "I haven't agreed yet." Baibo's ears drooped as he tried to persuade him. "Mr. Kale, didn't you say that you wanted to get close to the challengers? I'm just a small scavenger so I can't do it. Receptionist Only might be able to." She works for a grandmaster, so she might have the ability to make this happen. When Kale heard this, his eyes lit up as he looked at Bai Bo meaningfully. Bai Bo lowered its head as if it was under some pressure, and did not say anything else. Not bad. After a moment of silence, Kale smiled inexplicably as he gained a new understanding of Bai Bo. Bai Bo was also a smart creature. Even though he did not reveal his inner thoughts and impatience just now, Bai Bo was still able to see some of it from his body language, and even took the initiative to suggest things to pave the way for him. If it could be said that the relationship between the two was that of an employer and a tour guide before, then now Bai Bo had taken the initiative to show that he wanted to ride on his coattails. "Let's go," Kale said as he gestured for Bai Bo to follow him. He took the lead and walked down the stairs of the spaceship. Only then did Bai Bo let out a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from its shoulders. It used its claws to wipe off the sweat on its forehead as it eagerly followed behind Kale. Saka Galactic Restaurant, top floor, 10th floor. Because it was close to the inner city where the Grandmasters lived, all buildings were not allowed to exceed half the height of the central building. Under the strict regulations, the 10th floor was the highest height that could be built only with backstage staff. In the inner hall of the restaurant's 10th floor, Bai Bo sat on the soft double seat as he looked across the table at Enli's brother who was burying his head in his plate and eating. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. "It's rare for me to come to a galactic restaurant, but why did I have to come with a little brat? Can't you be more romantic?" That calculating woman actually played such a trick. Bai Bo grumbled as he glanced to the side. Kale and Enli were seated on the other side of the table, separated by about 10 meters. Their conversation could not be heard here at all. "Forget it, for the sake of the delicious food, I'll forgive you this time." Bai Bo sighed as his gaze fell on the delicious food on the table in front of him. He rolled up his sleeves, grabbed a large meat thigh and stuffed it into his mouth. His speed was not any slower than Enli's brother. At this time, Kale and Enli were sitting by the window on the 10th floor of the restaurant. The small wormhole in the sky refracted the dazzling light on the window. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, they could see half of Saka City's main city. Enli was no longer wearing her work uniform. Instead, she had changed into a luxurious dress. Her facial features were similar to that of a young human woman. Only her pink skin showed that she was not human. She had obviously dressed up carefully. She was wearing an exquisite necklace and earrings with a pair of waist-length ponytails. Her pink skin was not out of place in Kale's eyes. Instead, it had a faint alien charm. Of course, Kyle was purely appreciating it. He didn't have any other thoughts. Star-Lord with a heavy taste might like this one. "Mr. Kale, you should have just arrived on this planet, right?" Enli asked softly. "Yes. I've only been here for about 2 days." Kale nodded and had no intention of hiding it. "No wonder you mixed with the scavengers. It's very necessary to have a local guide when you just arrived on Saka." Enli chuckled and said with emotion, "I came to Saka in the generation of my parents, so my brother Little D and I have been living on this planet since we were born." With a slight movement in his heart, Kale went straight to the point and asked, "You have lived here for so long and worked in the exchange office under the Grand Master. How is your relationship with the Grand Master?" "Grand Master." Enli hesitated, glanced around and whispered in awe and fear, "No one dares to say that they have a good relationship with the Grand Master. This planet is developed and ruled by the Grand Master. This building, Saka City, and even us can be said to belong to the Grand Master. The Grand Master is an extraordinary elder of the universe. He likes to collect rare items and powerful creatures from all over the universe. His mood is fickle." Chapter 175. In a private warehouse in the outer city. Kale approached the pile of neatly arranged high-tech items and glanced at them. Suddenly, hundreds of blue cards appeared in front of him. "Not bad, I didn't pick the wrong person." Kyle smiled calmly. Enli's work efficiency was fast and efficient, and the goods she handed over were also not adulterated. As expected, she had selected the items according to the list he had given her, and all of them had met the conditions of being in perfect condition. Damaged items have a high probability of dropping in grade, so it is difficult to control the accuracy of the items. The shopping list he wrote included everything from rechargeable laser guns for alien combat to daily necessities such as holographic projection communications. It didn't matter what the goods were. What was important was that the items themselves were of sufficient grade. Fortunately, Planet Saka was a cosmic garbage dump. From time to time, there would be large-scale garbage from the advanced civilizations of the Milky Way Alliance. The overall grade of the goods was more than 1 grade higher than that of Earth in the 20th century. On Earth, blue-grade items were cutting-edge high-tech products. But here, blue-grade items were just standard items that could be found everywhere. Start drawing cards. Kale's mind moved slightly. With a reading frequency every 3 seconds, the items in the warehouse were converted into item cards and stored in the card space. Since the Second World War on Earth, the material card area hadn't received any new cards for a long time. This time it was finally raining. 10 minutes later, Kale cleared out all the items in the warehouse. He closed his eyes and his mind fell into the card space. In the vast white space, the white, green, and blue cards were divided into 4 to 5 areas according to their types and uses. They were like fireflies hovering in the air. Looks like it's a little too cold. Kale shook his head and sighed. Super blue-grade cards like the Dimensional Stone and the Giant Ancient Dragon Turtle were not with him. There wasn't even a trace of purple light in the card space. Even the rare blue-grade cards like Venom and the Blue Eagle were either dead or dying. Only the Super Soldier ability card remained. But now with the genetic diseases countdown, even this card was getting dimmer and dimmer. Thinking about it this way, it really felt like a lonely old man. Kale's mind incarnation laughed at himself and came to the material card area. The alien item cards were arranged in a row and suspended in the air, waiting for him to deal with them. Blue item cards, total number, 268 cards. It's time to exchange for some new cards. My luck is already bad enough. Can you give me a lucky break? Kale gritted his teeth. With a thought, more than 200 blue item cards flew into the sky. Sacrifice draw card, blue grade, 26 consecutive draws. That's right, consecutive draws. What he was playing with was his heartbeat. Under Kale's anxious and expectant gaze, all the cards in the material card area evaporated and disappeared. You have sacrificed low-voltage laser pistol, space protective suit, infant care assistance machine, transplantable mechanical eyeball. Draw successful. Congratulations, you've received, add life. The corners of Kale's mouth twitched when he heard the first sentence of the card draw system. I'm about to die. Add your head. The life-enhancing card increased one's natural lifespan. All unnatural deaths, illnesses, and injuries were not within its range. Rather than saying that it increased one's life, it was more accurate to say that it extended one's lifespan. It was completely useless to him now. However, Kale's eyes widened when he saw the first life-increasing card. He saw a deep purple light flickering and illuminating the entire card space. It was actually the purple rare, Add Life. Add Life. Increase the user's natural lifespan by 300 years. Purple rare ability card. Current status. Can be used on others. Great. White for 3 months, green for 3 years, blue for 30 years, and purple for 300 years. Kale couldn't help but clutch his chest. His heart was aching. Without the genetic disease, he could borrow 500 more years from the heavens. Ignoring his depression, he started to draw the life-enhancing card. Blue rare, Add Life, X5, small rocket backpack, vacuum portable toilet, black flame horse, Senzabine, wait, vacuum portable toilet? What kind of nonsense was mixed in this time? However, halfway through, he drew the familiar Senzabine. Kale knew that this wave was not a loss. It was a huge profit. Senzabine specialized in treating all near-death injuries. As long as one still had a breath left, eating it could instantly restore one's state to full. It could be used as a trump card to save one's life. Unfortunately, Senzabine was only effective for physical injuries. It was not included in the list of serious illnesses. Otherwise, Sun Wukong wouldn't have been worried about a mere heart disease. He was digressing. The card draw continued. Intergalactic communicator, high-tech spacesuit, sweeping machine, Krypton poet's oil painting, sodium carbon steel metal block, ancient language proficiency in the divine dominion, electronic energy shield, bronze tripod weapon, a weak tinder. The 26 consecutive draws ended. A brand new 26 cards were created from nothingness to existence, quietly floating in the card space. Kale's belief incarnation licked his lips. He couldn't help but quickly read the new cards, eliminating the ordinary cards first. Apart from the life-enhancing card series, there were 3 additional blue rare cards this time. He was really lucky. Kale waved his hand and 3 cards appeared in his hand. Senzabine was naturally one of them. The other 2 were Black Flame Horse and a weak tinder. Black Flame Horse. A horse-type creature that can appropriately control the flames in its body. Blue rare creature card. A horse-type creature with ancient alien genes. It is tall and strong. Its entire body is dark red in color and its skin is tough, It can ignore the attacks of ordinary swords and spears. It can run in the air thousands of meters below. Its running speed on the ground can reach twice the speed of sound. Its speed in the air is halved. There is a unique energy in its body. Its hooves will constantly release black high-temperature flames. When running, it will instinctively step on flames. It is irritable and untamed. It has a certain offensive ability and is unwilling to be controlled by creatures other than its master. Current status: can be summoned. Another top-grade mount. Kale muttered to himself. He could vaguely see the shadow of the blue eagle from the black flame horse biological card. Of course, both of them were mount-type creatures, but they were fundamentally different. The blue eagle was more functional and was good at detecting enemies at high altitudes. The black flame horse was more of a combat type. It would be too eye-catching if it could step on flames. This doesn't conform to my principle of keeping a low profile. Kale touched his chin. It was hard to imagine what kind of situation he would need to use the flaming horse. If he rode this creature out, he would undoubtedly become the focus of the planet's creatures. Let's put it aside first. Kale muttered to himself. He divided the cards into the creature card section and stored them. He then slowly looked at the third rare blue card. A weak tinder? The moment he saw the name of the card, Kale smiled. The name of the card was strange and interesting. It was similar to the name of the monster egg. Chapter 176. In a private warehouse in the outskirts of the city, Kyle approached the pile of neatly arranged high-tech items and swept his gaze across them. Suddenly, hundreds of identical blue cards appeared in front of him. Not bad, I didn't choose the wrong person. Kyle smiled calmly. And Lee's work efficiency was fast and efficient, and the goods she handed over were not flimsy either. As expected, she chose the items according to the list he gave her, and they all met the condition of being in good condition. Damaged items had a high probability of dropping in grade, and it was difficult to grasp the accuracy. The shopping list he wrote down ranged from rechargeable laser guns for extraterrestrial combat to holographic projection communication devices for daily necessities. It didn't matter what the item was, what was important was that the item itself was of a high grade. Fortunately, Planet Sokka was a cosmic garbage dump. From time to time, there would be large amounts of garbage from the advanced civilizations of the Milky Way Alliance. The overall grade of the goods here was more than one grade higher than Earth, which was still in the 20th century. On Earth, blue-grade items were cutting-edge high-tech products, but here blue-grade items were standard items that could be found on the streets. Start drawing cards. Kyle's thoughts moved slightly. Every 3 seconds he would convert the items in the warehouse into item cards and store them in the card space. Ever since the Second World War on Earth, there hadn't been any new cards in the material card area for a long time. This time there was finally rain after a long drought. More than 10 minutes later, Kyle emptied the warehouse of all the items, closed his eyes and entered the card space. In the vast and boundless white space, the white, green and blue cards were divided into 4 to 5 areas according to their type and use. They were glowing like fireflies hovering in the air. Looks like it's too cold. Kyle shook his head and sighed. Super blue-grade cards like the primordial space stone and the giant ancient dragon turtle were not with him. There was not even a trace of purple light in the card space. Even the rare blue-grade cards like Venom and Blue Eagle were either gone or dead. Only the Super Soldier ability card remained. But now, with the gene diseases countdown, even this card was getting dimmer and dimmer. Thinking about it, he really felt like he was a lonely old man. Kyle's thought incarnation laughed at himself and came to the material card area. All the extraterrestrial item cards were hovering in the air, waiting for him to deal with them. Total number of blue item cards, 268. It's time to exchange for some new cards. My luck is already bad enough. Do you dare to give me a break? Kyle gritted his teeth. With a slight thought, more than 200 blue item cards flew into the sky. Sacrifice draw card, blue quality, draw 26 times in a row. That's right, it was a consecutive draw. It was a game of heartbeat. In Kyle's heart, under his anxious and expectant gaze, all the cards in the material card area evaporated and disappeared. You have sacrificed low-pressure laser pistol, space protective suit, infant rearing auxiliary machine, transplantable mechanical eyeball. Draw successful. Congratulations, you have obtained life enhancement. Hearing the card drawing system's first sentence, the corner of Kyle's mouth twitched. I'm about to die, what's with the enhancement? The life enhancement card increased one's natural lifespan. Unnatural deaths and illnesses were not included in the range. Rather than saying it was increasing one's life, it was more like extending one's life. It was useless to him now. However, the first life enhancement card that he had drawn made Kyle's eyes widen. He saw a dark purple light shining and illuminating the entire card space. It was actually a purple rare. Life enhancement. Life enhancement. Increases the user's natural lifespan by 300 years. Purple rare ability card. Current status. Can be used on others. Alright. White for 3 months, green for 3 years, blue for 30 years and purple for 300 years. Kyle could not help but clutch his chest. His heart ached. Without a genetic disease, he could borrow 500 more years from the heavens. Ignoring his depression, he drew the life enhancement card to open the curtains. Blue rare, life enhancement, X5, small rocket backpack. Vacuum toilet, black flame horse. Senzabine, wait, vacuum toilet? What kind of messy things have mixed in again? However, halfway through, he had drawn the familiar Senzabine. Kyle knew that this was not a loss. He had made a killing. Senzabine was specialized in treating all kinds of near-death injuries. As long as one was still breathing, eating it could instantly restore one's condition. It could be used as a life-saving trump card. Unfortunately, Senzabine was only effective for physical injuries. It was not included in the list of serious physical illnesses. Otherwise, Goku would not have been worried about a mere heart disease. He digressed. The card draw continued. Intergalactic communicator, high-tech aerospace suit, floor-sweeping machine, Krypton poet's oil painting, sodium carbon steel metal block, divine territory ancient language proficiency, electronic energy shield, bronze tripod, a weak tinder. At the end of the 26 consecutive draws, 26 brand new cards were created from nothingness, quietly floating in the card space. Kyle's faith incarnation licked his lips. He could not help but quickly read through the new cards, first eliminating the ordinary ones. Other than the life enhancement card series, he had drawn an additional 3 blue rare cards this time. His luck had really exploded. Kyle waved his hand and 3 cards appeared in his hand. Senzabine was naturally one of them and the other 2 were Black Flame Horse and a weak tinder. Black Flame Horse. A horse-type creature that can control the flames in its body appropriately. Blue rare creature card. A horse-type creature with an alien ancient gene. It is tall and strong and its whole body is dark red. Its skin is tough and can ignore ordinary sword and gun attacks. It can run in the air below 1,000 meters. It can run at a maximum speed of 2 times the speed of sound on the ground, and have in the air. It has a unique energy source in its body. Its hooves will constantly release high-temperature black flames, and it will instinctively step on flames when running. It has a violent and untamable temperament, and it does not obey discipline. It has a certain offensive ability, and it is unwilling to be controlled by creatures other than its recognized master. Current status, can be summoned. Another excellent mount. Kyle mumbled to himself. From the Black Flame Horse card, he could vaguely see the shadow of the Blue Eagle. Of course, both of them were mount-type creatures, but there was a fundamental difference. The Blue Eagle was more functional and it was good at detecting enemies in the sky. The Black Flame Horse was more of a combat type. It had its own flame step and it was too eye-catching. This is not in line with my principle of keeping a low profile. Kyle touched his chin. It was hard to imagine what kind of situation he would need to use the Flaming Steps horse. If he rode this creature out, he would undoubtedly become the focus of all the creatures on the planet. Let's put it aside first, Kyle muttered to himself. Kyle muttered to himself as he stored the cards in the creature card section. Then he slowly looked at the 3rd rare blue card. A weak fire seed? The moment he saw the name of the card, Kyle smiled. The name of the card was strange and interesting, and it was no different from a weird egg. Chapter 177. A weak tinder. A weak tinder star that contains mysterious energy. Rare blue item card. A mysterious energy derived from the origin of the universe. It has no category and has the extraordinary power to give life to machines. After enough tinder energy completely penetrates the machine, it will begin to merge with it. The machine itself will gain the ability to evolve and transform, becoming a new highly intelligent mechanical life form with some kind of super talent ability. The development direction of the talent ability is related to the most primitive body of the machine. Current state, can be materialized. As the tinder is too weak, it cannot be merged with medium to large machines. It can only be merged with small machine objects. Exiting the card space, Kale held the item card between his fingers. His blue eyes were shining. It can give machines the tinder to evolve into humanized intelligent creatures and create mechanical life forms? Artificial intelligence. Howard had been pursuing this thing for half of his life and obtained the concept of the future that he had given him. Even with the advanced technological resources of Wakanda, he could only create a semi-intelligent system butler. It was still thousands of miles away from the completed super system artificial intelligence, JARVIS. Not to mention mechanical life. It was not until the future Iron Man Tani and Hulk Banner worked together to perfect and derive the artificial intelligence system and merged it with the Iron Man armor weapons that they successfully created Ultron by accident. Illusion was an evolved creature based on the essence of Ultron, plus vibranium, mind gem, and the divine power of the Asur gods. With this weak tinder, I can directly give a small machine a new life. Kale came back to his senses and sighed. If Howard knew about this, he would probably cry out loud. What should I use to carry this tinder? Kale thought about it and quickly pulled out a card. After it was materialized, a small and exquisite smartphone lay on the palm of his left hand. The smartphone was based on the Apple smartphone. After careful processing, it had a very fashionable and technological feel. The metal shell glowed with a cold luster, and there was the English logo of Stark Industries on the back. 2 or 3 years ago, Kale had taken this phone and met Howard. Before leaving Earth, Howard had hurriedly modified it and left it to him as a souvenir. In Howard's words, the outer shell of the phone was made of vibrating gold, and there was a small smart chip implanted inside. Coupled with Jarvis's voice program system, it was the perfect masterpiece he could create. Howard gave you a body and I gave you an inner soul. Kale smiled faintly. With a thought, the card materialized. The card between his right hand's fingers disappeared as if it had spontaneously combusted, turning into a wisp of blue flame that floated faintly above his right palm. The flame flickered and dimmed, looking as if it would be extinguished at any moment. Kale raised his right hand and moved the dim blue flame closer to the smartphone in his left hand. The flame seemed to have a mind of its own as it absorbed the phone. The next moment, something miraculous happened. The body of the smartphone was surrounded by electric arcs, and then the metal shell and the internal chip mechanically upgraded and spread out, quickly forming mechanical limbs, a small head, and even the facial features of a robot. In less than 5 seconds, a small mechanical creature stood firmly on its left palm with 2 feet. It raised its mechanical hand like a human and observed itself with electronic eyes. The mechanical creature looked up at Kale, lowered its body and bowed like a gentleman. "Dear Master, thank you for giving me a new life." "You're Jarvis?" Kale was a little surprised because the mechanical creature spoke with Jarvis' voice. A series of program data flashed in the eyes of the mechanical creature, and it said gently, "I'm Jarvis, not Jarvis. I'm me, a unique new life created by Master." "I'm speechless." Kale smiled. Ultron and Illusion were also based on JARVIS, but they were all brand new individual lives. From a biological point of view, it felt like they were siblings. However, the one in front of him could be considered the ancestor of the future Jarvis. "How should I call you then?" Kale pondered. "I'm your personal butler and follower, you can call me Vice." The mechanical creature's posture was very low, and its voice was gentle and powerful, making people feel very comfortable. Vice, transliterated in Chinese, meant thinking, and this reflected the human side of mechanical creatures. "Vice, I need to know your specific ability and what kind of assistance you can give me," Kale asked directly. Who would be so polite to their own phone? Vice nodded and its body shape changed mechanically. It changed back to its original phone form in half a second, and a speaker sounded. "Tinder, give me the ability to transform." As it spoke, it changed into a pair of tactical glasses, a mechanical watch, and finally a mechanical human form. It's only limited to mechanical items that are about the size of the body. "There's more." Kale nodded. The basic ability to transform was very good. After all, it would be too revealing to have a small mechanical human with him. "Since I'm a smartphone, I can control radio waves and try to invade intelligent systems, instruments, and so on within the range with radio waves. I can also use radio waves to carry out detailed reconnaissance in a small area." Vice spread its hands. Without seeing what it was doing, the voice activated lights in the underground warehouse where Kale was suddenly turned off and lit up again. Transformation is a racial talent given by Tinder, and radio wave control is a feature given by the phone itself. Other than that, I have all the upgrade functions of the phone itself. Vice said slowly and turned off the lights in the warehouse again. The electronic eye acted as a projection lens, and soft light rays formed a holographic projection. The holographic projection showed dozens of intelligent software, alarm clock, communication, timer, music, movies, search engine, and so on. There was also a cute smiley face next to it. Very good. Kale's eyes were filled with surprise. This was enough to surprise him. He thought that without a supercomputer to process information, the intelligence of a mechanical creature would not be as high as Jarvis's. Now, it seemed like Tinder's power had completely upgraded the phone itself. You can transform into a mechanical watch under normal circumstances. If necessary, tactical glasses will do too. Kale pondered and said. Vice's mechanical body was made of vibranium. With the protection of vibranium, it would be difficult to damage it no matter how intense the battle was. By the way, what do you usually need to eat? Kale slapped his forehead. His habitual thinking had caused him to not treat Vice as a real creature. As long as it's energy, solid or liquid, it's fine. Chapter 178. Kale left the underground warehouse. Just as he walked out the door, he was surprised to find a small battle-type spaceship parked in front of the door. It was similar to a fighter jet. The entire fighter jet was like a steel eagle with its wings spread open. It was majestic and domineering as it lay prone on the ground. The sunlight fell on the fuselage, reflecting a cold metallic light. With an advanced laser cannon at the front and an engine at the back, no one would doubt its attack power and flying speed. Kale was surprised when the cabin door quickly rose up. Bai Bo, covered in white fur, jumped out of the cabin, not forgetting to call out, "Mr. Kale, you've finally come out. Is there something urgent?" Kale asked. Before this, he didn't bring Bai Bo with him because he wanted to draw a card. Receptionist and Lee said that she has already arranged for your matter, but the time limit is this afternoon. That's why she asked me to come and pick you up. Bai Bo said with a shrug. That matter. That's right. Kale heard Bai Bo say this and couldn't help but reveal a look of understanding as he remembered. Other than cooperating to buy goods, he and Lee only had to meet the challengers. Let's go. Kale walked towards the fighter jet. Bai Bo followed half a beat behind him. Its eyes noticed that there was an additional electronic communication watch on his wrist. It said in surprise, "You have a communications watch? You can say that." Kale smiled indifferently. "You should have asked me to help you buy something else. The items in Lee recycles are cheap, but their appearance and performance aren't good enough." Bai Bo suggested, indirectly implying that Kale's communications watch was ordinary. It was a commoner's watch on planet Sokka that even scavengers were often equipped with. It didn't match his status. Kale laughed involuntarily and didn't reply. Bai Bo didn't notice that while it was complaining, the communications watch on Kale's wrist was constantly flashing with a series of numbers and symbols. After entering the fighter jet, the lights in the cabin lit up one by one. There were main, co-pilot, and 4 seats at the back. The cabin was large enough to accommodate 10 people without being crowded. Surrounded by this high-tech product, Kale's heart was filled with the aura of technology. In his days, he even thought that he was on Earth after the 21st century. This is the battleship that Ms. Only bought for you. It's worth 8 million Sokka dollars. This fighter jet was once one of the top fighter jets collected by the Grandmaster. Later on, because the exterior wasn't dazzling enough, it was shelved and dealt with internally. Only someone like Lee would be able to obtain it. As Bai Bo spoke, it continuously used its claws to gently rub against the advanced equipment inside the mech. Its eyes were filled with longing and infatuation, and its mouth was almost drooling. Regardless of its configuration or performance, it has reached the peak of the universe's advanced technological civilization. If there's any fighter on this planet that can pass through the Devil's Hole unscathed, this is definitely one of them. Bai Bo looked excited as he ran and jumped onto the front passenger seat. He patted the driver's seat with his paw and urged, "Mr. Kale, trust me, you'll love this feeling after you try it." Kale shrugged and walked forward to sit in the driver's seat. The soft seat automatically adjusted to a suitable sitting position, and the map and information about the fighter jet were projected onto the screen. He fumbled left and right before he found the engine switch. He pressed it and the fighter jet floated up with a slight vibration. Bai Bo fastened his seatbelt and put on his headphones. His face was a bit strange. "Oh right, I forgot to ask. Mr. Kale, have you driven a spaceship before?" "No." Kale answered straightforwardly. Not to mention a spaceship, he didn't even have a driving license before. Then I'll teach you slowly." Bai Bo revealed an inexplicable sense of joy. He thought to himself that this was a good chance to show off in front of Kale. to prove that he wasn't a freeloading pet beast. No need. Kale glanced at Bo beside him and focused his mind. After 3 seconds, the rare green ability card, Starship Piloting Mastery, was successfully drawn. Under Bo's wide-eyed gaze, Kyle, who was still in a daze when it came to manipulating the various devices just a moment ago, tapped the screen with his fingers with great familiarity in the next moment. He then grabbed the joystick and pulled it up. The fighter jet's engine roared and blue flames and compressed jets burst out from its tail. Like an eagle, it disappeared on the spot with a whoosh, leaving behind turbulent air and strong winds. Wah! Under the sudden braking force, Bo's small body was squeezed hard onto the seat, and he almost couldn't breathe. The buildings outside the pilot's window flew past in a blur. Kale's face was calm, and the speed at which he controlled the fighter jet was inexplicably exciting. There was a saying, mechas and fighter jets are a man's romance. He vaguely understood it now. Unfortunately, the work of piloting a fighter jet was too troublesome, and it was better to drive it on autopilot. Vice, are you there? Kale asked softly. Just as he finished speaking, the electronic watch on his left wrist flickered. My master is at your beck and call 24 hours a day. Vice sent out radio waves which were transmitted to Kale through the earpiece. Its tone was as friendly and easygoing as a butler, but its attitude was strict and serious. You're making me look like a villain boss. Kale complained in his mind and continued, try to invade the computer system of this fighter jet and control it remotely. Yes. The electronic watch flickered, and after a series of numbers and symbols flashed past, a message was sent back. Silent radio wave invasion failed. This alien computer system is not recorded in the database, so remote control is not possible. Then let's change it to a physical invasion. Kale muttered. He had quite a number of scientific ability cards with him, and he could be considered half a scientist. Yes. The electronic watch changed shape slightly, and then a long mechanical arm extended from the side of the watch. The front simulated a metal plug, and it quickly plugged into a socket of the pilot's instrument. Bo's claws held onto the seat tightly, and it didn't notice that the projection screen of the fighter jet flickered for a while before returning to normal. In Kale's ear, Vice report came through the earpiece loudspeaker. Physical entry successful. Vice Trojan virus has been implanted, and the fighter jet's computer system can be controlled remotely in the future. In that case, full speed ahead. Kale's hands left the pilot's instrument, and Vice followed the controls of the computer system. The fighter jet trembled gently, and then its speed increased by another level. In less than a moment. In the Galactic Stadium's plaza, Lee, who had been waiting for a long time, looked up. The fighter jet was like a stream of light, flying from the distant sky of the outskirts of the city to the plaza, and stopped steadily in the middle of the plaza. The cabin door opened and Bo staggered out of the cabin muttering, Mr. Kale, please drive slower next time. Kyle couldn't be bothered with it. After coming down, he walked straight towards Lee. Lee lowered her head and led him towards the Galactic Arena. She reminded him, the guards only agreed to meet and converse with each other through the underground prison. The time limit is 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's enough. Chapter 179. Kale had Bo stay in the fighter while Lee led him into the Galactic Duel Arena. However, the passage was no longer the main entrance, but a secluded and unknown employee passageway that led directly to the underground prison. When they arrived at the entrance of the laser barrier, the two of them were immediately stopped by the Sokka guards who were armed with laser guns. Halt. If you take another step forward, you will be punished according to the Sokka laws set by the Grand Master. Kale frowned. Lee hurriedly waved her hand and took out her identity card. I am Anli, the receptionist of the exchange center. This is Mr. Kale. Before this, I have already spoken with your chief guard. He has already agreed to let us visit the Challenger. The Sokka guards looked at each other. One of the older guards nodded and said coldly, please wait a moment. He picked up his communicator and reported in a low voice. When he heard the order from the other side, his expression eased a lot. He said to Lee, there is indeed such a matter. However, only one person can go in to visit and only 5 minutes. This time it was Lee's turn to frown. Just as she was about to continue arguing, Kale waved his hand and interrupted her. He slowly said, you stay outside with Bo, all right? Lee helplessly agreed and took a few steps back. I will go in alone. Kale stepped forward and said to the guards, I will bring you in. You are not allowed to leave my side the entire time. Otherwise I have the right to kill you. In addition, you will need to wear this during the visit. The guard took out a small device from his belt. Kale recognized it at a glance. It was a neurotoxin control device. One end was connected to the human body. As long as he pressed a button, even if the subject was Thor, he would still be paralyzed and fall to the ground. The older guard saw Kale's hesitant expression and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Sir, the chief guard has already broken the rules by allowing you to visit the prison. Please don't make things difficult for us. No problem. Put it on. Kale calmly nodded. Only then did the older guard approach and insert the device into his ear. With a soft sound, the device was tightly attached to his neck. Kale's face was expressionless. He adjusted his collar slightly to cover the device that was emitting electric light. Take it. The older guard handed the controller to another guard, opened the laser gate and gestured for Kale to follow. Kale glanced at the controller in the guard's hand one last time before calmly withdrawing his gaze and following the older guard who was leading the way. Walking in the underground passage leading to the prison below, no one noticed that Kyle's left wrist was empty. The electronic watch that he had been wearing had long since disappeared. Miss Enli, please wait outside. The guard outside the laser barrier smiled and said to Enli, all right. Enli nodded lightly and retreated outside. Every 5 steps she took, she would turn her head back. She didn't know why, but she had an indescribable feeling of unease. Maybe it's because too many alien life forms have died here, causing me to feel pressured. Enli mocked herself for being a coward. She took a deep breath and left the underground prison. Not long after Enli left, the guard who was still guarding outside the prison put the controller back into his pocket and quickly picked up the communication device. Reporting to the manager, the one called Kale has entered the arena prison. After the communication device was connected, the guard hurriedly reported. The other end of the communication device was silent for a while before a hoarse and deep voice came through. Very good. Continue to maintain communication. Increase the number of guards in the prison. No problem. The guard respectfully replied. At this time, on the highest floor of the Galactic Stadium, the platform where the Grandmasters usually watched the finals, the luxurious room was empty. There was only a middle-aged alien with a face painted with the blue dye of planet Sokka. He was sitting cross-legged on a mechanical seat. The guard turned off the communication device with one hand. The veins on his forehead were bulging. His other hand was placed on the mechanical seat. His 5 fingers exerted force and suddenly the seat caved in. A ruthless and cold emotion appeared in his eyes. Even his pupils had turned dark red. He was filled with anger as he hoarsely said to himself, "It's been half a year. I thought that man would never come here again. Yet, he has appeared in front of me again." As he spoke, a layer of dark liquid wrapped around the guard's head. It was like a real devil's hood. His facial features were twisted and torn. The guard raised one hand. That hand formed a layer of tough keratin membrane. His palm was huge and his fingers were sharp. He picked up the steel glass on the table and laughed wantonly. He used this to suppress the fear in his heart. Venom. What you don't dare to do, I, Slaughter, will do it for you. After all, we were originally one body. Only by completely erasing that man from this world can we obtain true freedom. Slaughter snorted coldly. The steel glass almost cracked. He put it back on the table with a bang. He picked up his windbreaker and left the room. The cracked glass bottle that was left behind trembled slightly. It was as if there was a ball of black liquid moving about inside. It was as if a living being was violently tumbling about, trying to break free from it. However, it soon returned to its original state powerlessly. In the tunnel of the underground prison, the guard was in front and Kale was behind. In the tunnel that kept going down, only the sound of their footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Well, who is the challenger you want to visit? The guard turned around and asked curiously. I don't know his name. Kale thought for a moment and described, it's the kid with tentacles who advanced to the top for this time and is about to participate in the championship match. What's him? The guard nodded, but his face became strange. He asked, that kid, who is he to you? He's like a friend of mine. Kale's words were concise. He didn't want to reveal too much. The guard hesitated for a moment and said, it's strange. That kid prisoner was able to advance to the top 4. Even us guards were shocked. Kale looked at him in surprise. That kid was captured by a guard I know a month ago. He was originally a thief in the outer city. Before he entered the prison he was almost beaten to death. He has been lying in the prison sick. You say that he suddenly became so strong and made it to the top 4. Isn't that strange? The guard chuckled nosily. But the universe is too big. There might be such a combat race that can increase their strength after recovering from serious injuries. The guard concluded. Kale listened and his eyes flickered. Of course, he knew the reason for the kid's sudden strength. It was naturally Venom's symbiotic possession. But why did Venom do this? Symbiotic with a seriously injured kid. Who was it originally symbiotic with? It's right in front. The guard said and pointed forward. The entrance to the prison could be seen not far away. Kale's footsteps suddenly stopped. His face was unprecedentedly solemn and his muscles were slightly tense. Chapter 180. In the dimly lit underground prison passage, Kale frowned as he keenly sensed that something was wrong in the air. He was a war hero from World War II on Earth, so he had a unique grasp of the situation on the battlefield. At this time he could clearly feel the cold air in the air. Who was tricking him? What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Your visiting time is only 5 minutes and I'm counting it now. The guard saw Kale stop and couldn't help but turn around and urge him. I'm fine. Kale shook his head and slowly walked forward. He didn't feel any malice from the older guard. If this was a trap, then perhaps even the prison guard was a chess piece. This was buried too deep. Thinking about it carefully, Kale had only arrived on planet Sokka for a few days, and the people he knew were at best by Bo and Only, so he didn't have the time to offend anyone. With a one-piece combat suit, dressed as a half-Black Panther, he destroyed an alien gang, released a night elf, and circled the main city a few times with the guard's spaceship. But that was under the condition that he didn't reveal his true appearance. If the guards knew his identity, they would have already arrested him in the city. Why would they need to play tricks? After thinking about it, there was only one answer left. It was the most unbelievable but also the most reasonable answer at present. Venom. Kale narrowed his eyes and quietly clenched his fists. He chose to put down his guesses and follow the guard to meet the challenger with Venom. It wouldn't be too late to come to a conclusion after seeing the person. Coming out of the underground passage, his eyes suddenly opened up. Under the bright electric lights on the ceiling and floor, the prison's inner hall was spacious, but the floor was slightly dirty, and the air was filled with a slightly pungent smell of blood and disinfectant. On both sides of the hall, metal cages were stuffed with aliens wearing simple prison uniforms. When the guard brought Kale to the hall, pairs of empty and cold eyes fell on Kale. Oh, another newcomer? Not at all. Look at his clothes. It's actually an outsider. Can anyone come to this prison? Accompanied by whistles, the voices of many alien criminals continued to resound in the prison. Behave yourself. The guard warned coldly. He turned around and said to Kale slowly, Follow me. The top 4 are all in the innermost part of the prison. Kale nodded and followed the guard inside. When they passed by one of the prison cages, a huge black shadow suddenly pounced out and slammed into the iron door, triggering flashes of electricity from the protective door system. The electricity flowed on the tough and smooth outer layer of the door. The guard was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground in a panic. Kyle coldly turned his head to the side, and from less than half a meter away, he looked into the eyes of the 2 heads and the green vertical pupils of the 2 heads. Sizzle. The twin-headed snake's body crackled with electricity, paralyzing and weakening its body. Even then it remained indifferent. Its scarlet-red tongue flicked out from between its fangs, and it drooled as it stared coldly at Kale as if it was looking at delicious food. Kale's face was expressionless, without the slightest hint of fear. We still have to go a little further inside. Let's go quickly. The guard patted his chest with lingering fear, not daring to look at the terrifying cold-blooded monster. It was not until Kale left the cage that the twin-headed snake turned around and coiled its body. Interesting. In the single cell directly opposite, the scythe man licked his lips. His pair of scimitar-like arms rubbed against each other, flashing coldly in the dimly lit cage. The guard stopped in the innermost cage of the underground prison. Kale looked inside and could see the tentacle child sitting in the corner of the cage. His limbs and neck were wearing paralyzing nerve devices that emitted blue light. Standing outside the cage, Kale was 5 meters away, so he could not see the ability card on the tentacle child. The child had no intention of moving at all. He just sat there quietly, motionless and in a daze. He's always like this. He only shows such terrifying combat power in the duel arena. The guard whispered. Can I go inside? Kale asked the guard. Yes, but you have to be careful. The guard took out the instrument and reminded while operating the door, although we have put the device on him, you also know that his hidden tentacles are very powerful. I know. After the door opened, Kale immediately stepped into the cage and approached the tentacle child step by step. 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. The tentacle child did not respond. At this time, Kale had completely reached the distance where he could check the cards. He stopped and his mind moved. Galaxy Alliance language proficiency, stealing proficiency, running proficiency. Only a few pitifully few cards appeared and none of them were higher than green. This showed that venom was no longer on the alien child in front of him. Otherwise, the existence of venom would appear as the information of the creature card, and it could be retrieved and extracted. Kale was silent for a moment, looked at the child and tried to say, "Do you know venom?" The child trembled and raised his head. His small face was weak and bloodless. He stared straight at Kale. His empty eyes gradually regained clarity and showed a strange smile. "You shouldn't have come." "What?" Kale was stunned and stared at him. "You really know venom? It left your body, where did it go now?" "Kind of, but it now has another name. Since you're here, it's time for my work to end." The child inexplicably said to himself, maintaining a strange smile, and his small face suddenly became rosy. Not only that, but in Kyle's bewildered eyes, the child's thin and small body was like a deflated balloon that was being pumped in, rapidly expanding and expanding. "Damn it." Kale's face changed. He turned around and rushed out. He just rushed to the door of the cage. The guard outside the door was shocked with his mouth wide open. In his field of vision, the child's body had expanded more than 3 times. The next moment, boom. The huge sound of the explosion was like a thunder on the ground, shaking the entire underground prison. The original cage that held the child was destroyed in the explosion. The child's bones were not left. The dust containing the blood mist settled. Only Kale was left standing in the passage unscathed. The guards next to him were blown away by the explosion and hit the wall. They were badly mutilated and fell unconscious on the ground. The prisoners in the prison didn't know what happened. The warning lights in the prison kept flashing, and the loud and urgent alarm echoed powerfully. "Intruder found, all guards please go immediately." "Repeat it." "Intruder found, all guards please go immediately." Was indeed a trap. Kale glanced at the messy cage. His handsome face was splashed with a few drops of blood from the explosion. His expression was gloomy and cold. Chapter 181. Kale's fingers clenched into fists so tightly that his nails pierced into his palms. A faint tingling sensation was transmitted to his heart, allowing him to remain fully awake. Everything in front of him undoubtedly proved that no matter how unbelievable it was an indisputable fact. Only Venom, the symbiotic demon that was familiar with him from the inside out, could set up such a huge trap for him. Venom, Venom? Kale's face was still as calm as before, but his blue eyes seemed to be brewing some kind of storm. The veins on his forehead were slightly bulging, and his steel-like muscles bulged out his clothes. His fists were clenched so tightly that they turned white and made cracking sounds. Anger. This was the first time Kale was so angry. Venom, did he praise him for growing shrewdly, or did he say that he had become so stupid? Did he not know the consequences of betraying him? After being with him for so long, did he not have any idea? The intruder is over there. Catch him. Don't let him escape. With frequent and dense footsteps and shouts, a team of more than a dozen alien guards armed with laser guns rushed into the passage. The leader of the team pointed at Kale, who was standing alone in the passage. "All of you get out of here." Cold words came out of his mouth. Kale looked at the alien guards indifferently. His body suddenly moved, and with an explosive speed, his figure became blurred in the guard's line of sight. In the blink of an eye, Kale took the initiative to rush into the alien guards. The faces of the 2 alien guards in front changed drastically. Just as they were about to raise their laser guns to aim, Kale stretched out his hands like lightning and grabbed their arms respectively. Kale twisted hard, and the crisp sound of bones breaking was heard. The 2 alien guards immediately fell to the ground with a wail, and their arms were twisted like fried dough twists. At the same time, Kale suddenly kicked out with his right foot twice in a row, kicking the guards who fell to the ground like balls. Bang bang. The 2 guards were heavily injured and lost consciousness. Their bodies were penetrated by the lasers of their teammates in the air. Blood splattered everywhere as the corpses crashed into the team behind them. The scene was bloody and chaotic for a moment. Kale did not have the slightest intention of stopping. He was in a state of rage and wanted to vent his anger. At this time, the prison guards that rushed up were just enough to bear his anger. He leaped and pounced, rushing to the front of the other guards. His elbow shot out with a short burst of power, quickly slamming into the chest of one of the guards. With 10 times the strength of a human, and with the exquisite technique of exerting force, this blow undoubtedly contained more than a ton of impact force. The guard spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest caved in and his broken ribs protruded from his back. His broken ribs pierced into the body of another guard behind him, and they were all thrown a few meters away like kites with their strings cut. In less than 5 seconds, more than half of the alien guards had lost their ability to fight. Kale's eyes flashed with a cold light. His aura was cold and tyrannical as he took a step forward. His boot landed on the wrist of a guard who was about to get up, and he directly crushed it. Venom, how long are you going to hide? Come out. Ignoring the cries of the guards, Kale's powerful and cold voice echoed in the prison. Since he could so easily use the resources of Sokka Prison, and symbiotically control the criminals back and forth, and set up such a trap, the bodies that Venom mainly relied on at this time were mostly the members of Sokka Prison. If you don't come out, then I will drag you out, Kale said coldly. Walking to the underground hall of the prison, dozens of alien guards rushed out in front of him again. Chi. The laser beams were dazzling and blinding, blocking Kale's body and his escape route. Kale did not retreat but advanced. He quickly jumped up and changed his pace. His feet firmly stepped on the wall and he burst into the armed guards. He was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. For a moment, the screams of the alien guards were endless. At this time, at the entrance of the underground prison. Greetings, Chief. The guard outside the door looked respectfully at the newcomer and greeted him with a salute. How is the situation inside? Butcher asked with a calm face. The guards who are responsible for guarding the prison have all gone in. They even brought the remote control in they should be able to successfully suppress. Before the guard could finish his words, inside the underground prison, an angry voice echoed in the passage, faintly reaching the ears of the two. Venom, come out. During this time there were also the screams of the guards. This. The guard awkwardly shut his mouth, while Butcher's face changed slightly. His body and soul began to tremble. That was the pressure and fear that came from the moment he was born. From the inside out, his body and mind were warning himself not to offend that man, let alone become his enemy. Inform the guard spaceships outside the prison to surround this area of the Galactic Stadium. We must not let the intruder escape. Butcher patted the guard's arm to encourage him, then turned and left decisively. Yes. The guard was stunned as he watched Carnage's back as he fled in panic. In the underground prison, the prisoners in the cages looked at Kale outside the hall, who was fighting against dozens of guards alone. They were stunned speechless. One word, ferocious and brutal. TSK, two-headed monster, can you still hold it in? On the other side, the scythe-wielding man grinned and mocked the double-headed snake in the opposite cage. Suddenly, he waved his hand, and with a flash of the blade, the iron bars of the cage's gate were smoothly cut into two. The high-voltage electricity was transmitted to the scythe-wielding man's body through the hand blade. His body stiffened, then he walked out of the cage from the hole as if nothing had happened. His body blurred and disappeared, but he rushed to the hall at supersonic speed. Seeing him leave, the two-headed snake straightened its upper body, revealing fangs in both of its mouths, and bit the door of the cage. The electric light made it look like a giant electric eel. It twisted its body, and the iron bars of the cage were pulled and twisted into a ball. It stuck its two heads and slid quickly on the ground, swallowing the bodies of the guards along the way. These monsters. In a separate cage, the weakest six-eyed alien among the top four was curled up and shivering. In the prison hall, Kale's killing intent was aroused. It was like he had returned to the battlefield meat grinder of human wars. Even if he had no weapons in his hands, his body was the strongest killing weapon. Wherever he passed, the guards were cut down like wheat. Seeing that the guards in the prison had been wiped out once again, the captain of the guard said in a dignified voice, "Intruders, stop. Kneel on the ground with your hands on your head." Kale acted as if he did not hear it. He punched the guard in front of him and sent him flying. He looked up and saw the guard captain standing at a safe distance more than 10 meters away, holding a remote control in his hand. "Don't force me to use extreme measures," the guard captain said coldly. Kale was expressionless and walked slowly toward him. The guard captain suddenly became anxious, gritting his teeth and looking at him. "One more step and I will." As he warned, Kale had already taken 2 more steps. The guard captain looked at him as if he was looking at a dead man. "You criminal, fall." After the guard captain finished speaking, he pressed the button of the control with his thumb. However, Kale was completely fine and continued walking forward. The guard captain tried pressing the button a few more times, but there was still no response. It was only when Kale walked in front of him that he knelt on the ground in horror. Why, you should have a paralyzing nerve control device installed on your body. Why is there no response? I've already unlocked it, Kale said with a shrug. That's impossible. No one can unlock that control device by themselves, the guard captain said bitterly with his eyes wide open. You can think about it slowly after you die. Chapter 182. Once the paralyzing nerve control device was attached to the human body, it would be connected to the skin and flesh and would be difficult to pull out. If one wanted to use external force to pull it out, it would also trigger the passive protection, releasing neurotoxins that could knock out any life form. This was also the last layer of control the guards of Planet Sokka had on the prisoners. Unfortunately, this trick that worked every time was completely useless against Kale, who had a mechanical life form with him. For the vice, the energy stored in the neurotoxin device was not bad. Kale pulled his collar, and the neurotoxin device on his neck was slightly deformed as it extended a headset-like end. He reported, "Master, the radio waves have detected that nearly 10 spaceships are surrounding this area. It won't be long before the area here is completely sealed off." Is that so? Then let's leave this place first. There's no way Venom would dare to stay in the underground prison anyway. Scan the building structure here and find a safe passage to the outside. Kale suppressed the anger in his heart and ordered. Yes. The vice received the order and spread radio waves around, penetrating the walls and quickly performing calculations. In just 3 seconds, Kale received the guidance message from the vice. He moved without hesitation and forcefully broke through the alien guards all the way, killing his way out of the prison hall and entering an underground passage that led outside. The vice captain of the guard saw that he could not stop Kale and allowed him to enter the passage. He then hurriedly said to the communicator, "Quickly open the space corridor for me. Don't let him leave the underground prison." As soon as he finished speaking, the vice captain of the guards suddenly opened his mouth wide in shock. He saw a man with a scythe in the prison area ignore the guards and quickly swept across the hall in an instant. He also rushed into the passage that Kale had entered. "Increase the manpower and bring the Blade's neurotoxin control device over." Before he could finish his words, the vice captain of the guards paused again. It was a huge two-headed snake beast. Amidst the desperate cries of the guards, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the snake's belly. Then, it slithered its snake body and chased after the scythe-wielding man. "Then take the two-headed monster's neurotoxin controller." The vice captain was halfway through his sentence when he shuddered and said hysterically, "No, hurry up and get the Grandmaster. There are 3 monster-level fugitives, we can't defend against them at all." In the 3-meter-wide underground tunnel, Kale was running in circles at full speed. That's right, they were going around in circles. Kale abruptly stopped in his tracks and looked at the glowing ceiling and walls, as well as the bloody footprints he had left on the ground. He asked in astonishment, "Vice, have I already walked through this twice?" "Yes, you did," replied Vice. "It's clearly a straight tunnel. How did it end up at the beginning?" Kale was even more puzzled. Vice fell into silence. After a few seconds he gave a reasonable explanation. Vice Planet has a high-tech defense technology called the Space Cloister. After it's opened from the outside, the internal space will fall into an infinite loop so that the creatures in the cloister won't be able to escape. Isn't this like a trapped beast fight? Kale thought about it and came up with an idea. His body entered stealth mode and turned into a cloud of black mist. "Stealth, Nightwalker, forced escape skill activated," Kale chanted in his heart. His body flickered and quickly disappeared from the tunnel. Half a second later, Kale appeared on the spot again. Looking at the tunnel as usual, he frowned slightly. "I can't even forced escape skill?" This time he was really at his wit's end. "If only I had the ring of suspension on me." Kale raised his eyebrows in annoyance. The mirror world and teleportation gate spell were the perfect counter to this kind of fancy high-tech defense. Tracing back to the source, it came back to the traitor Venom. "Venom?" Kale snorted coldly. Anger burned in his heart like a flame. At this moment, in a certain tempered glass bottle, a black liquid that looked like stagnant water suddenly trembled and bubbled. The liquid hit the cracks on the inside of the glass bottle, and the glass bottle kept shaking. Dripping water could penetrate stone. The biggest crack on the inside of the glass bottle finally deepened and was about to split open. At this moment, the door suddenly opened. The black liquid in the glass quickly went dormant and calmed down. Carnage's face was gloomy as he strode into the room. He picked up the glass bottle on the table and put it back into his windbreaker pocket. This matter has already alerted the Grandmaster. A top 4 challenger has died. The Grandmaster will probably be furious. Carnage walked to the edge of the platform's floor-to-ceiling window and looked out at the wide duel arena. It was as if he could see Kale running around in the underground tunnel through the floor. As long as you exist, I will be your shadow for the rest of my life. So, sorry, please stop struggling and end your life here. I will bring your body back to Earth, Carnage said to himself hoarsely. *CK. As if responding to his words, Kale in the underground tunnel was punching the wall of the tunnel with his fist. Bang, bang, bang. Without the vibranium arm guard, Kale could only punch the wall with his bare fist. The smooth mirror-like wall cracked continuously, just like the liquid creature's situation in the glass bottle. Master, according to the thickness of the wall, with your current punching speed and the same fist force, it will take you about 26,405 minutes to completely break it, Vice reminded Kale with scientific data. His fist alone could not break through the wall. Kale had no choice but to retract his fist. He was just trying. As for giving up, there was no such word in his life dictionary. Oh right, the military munitions bombs stored in the card space are not inferior to an arsenal. I can take them out and try. Kale did what he wanted to do. He used his mind to pull out a pile of item cards and shuffled them in his hands like playing cards. Hydra laser tank. Kyle looked at this card and quickly put it away with a sigh. This thing was powerful, but it was a little too big. The underground passage was not enough space to summon a physical body. Explosive BX-10. Kale waved his hand and summoned 10 cards into packs of physical bombs, stacking them on the wall outside the tunnel. Before leaving Earth, he did not bring many things with him. He only had a lot of unprocessed military munitions from World War II. Most of them were of white quality or green quality at best. I've used all of them. Kale did not feel the slightest bit of heartache. He summoned a pile of explosives from the card and stacked them on the wall of the underground tunnel. He was not afraid of wasting them, but he was most afraid of not using them. After a while, a dull and terrifying sound echoed in the underground tunnel, causing the entire underground prison to tremble as if there was an earthquake. What's happening now? Is there an end to this? Chapter 183. The rubble and dust slowly settled. In the underground tunnel that was filled with the smell of gunpowder, there was a scorched hole in the outer wall after the explosion. Even the surrounding walls were full of cracks. Looks like it's effective. Kale walked forward again and said with a shrug. Yes. As long as there are 3 bombs of this power stacked together, the outer wall of this corridor can be destroyed. Vice expressed his agreement. Then that's easy. Clapping his hands lightly, Kale was about to continue drawing cards when the sharp sound of something cutting through the air came from the tunnel behind him. A feeling of extreme danger rose in his heart and even caused the back of his neck to feel a chill. Almost instinctively, Kale quickly lowered his head. Just as he made this reflexive action, a silver sword flashed past his head and cut off a few strands of his hair. While Kale dodged the fatal blow, his face turned cold. He used his elbow to counterattack, but the end of his elbow still fell into a ball of air. The opponent actually slashed down at the speed of sound and did not stop at all, easily dodging his exquisite counterattack at close range. All of this happened in a flash. Normal people would only be able to see it clearly if they slowed it down at least 3 times. In an instant, the two had completed a probing contest. So fast. Kale was shocked. His muscles tensed up as if he was facing a great enemy. He turned around and swept his cold gaze behind him. It was the side-shaped man who had advanced into the top 4. As if he had found a good prey, he stared at Kale with great interest and said lightly with praise, "To be able to dodge my quick slash, not bad reaction. You are indeed very strong." "Why did you attack me?" Kale asked coldly. Jumping out to attack him out of the blue, he would have flipped out if he had met someone like that. But right now the most important thing was to escape first. He did not want to be entangled with this unknown challenger. What? The weak are prey to the strong and the strong are king. This is the eternal law of the universe. Why are there so many whys? The scythe-wielding man chuckled, his long and narrow eyes revealing a cruel and merciless light. He raised his scythe and said, "I'm from the Blade clan of Planet Z. Our race was born to fight and behead. As soon as I arrived on planet Sokka, I beheaded all the creatures I saw." He licked his lips and continued, "The ruler called Grandmaster said that as long as I can win the championship, he will forgive my sins. But who wants his forgiveness? As long as I can fight with powerful creatures, cut off their heads and taste their blood, that's enough. Master. There's no doubt that it's a murderous monster. It doesn't have any goals when it attacks, it just wants to feel good. Vice whispered into Kale's ear. You don't have to tell me. I know. Kale's face was cold. He maintained a high level of vigilance against the man with the sickle. Things had become troublesome. If I can cut off your head, it should be a very memorable event. The man with the scythe suddenly took a step forward, and the scythe in his hands slashed forward along with the strong wind. Kyle was already prepared, and he nimbly stepped out of the way. The scythe fell on the wall behind him, and it cut open the wall like it was tofu, leaving a smooth cut mark. A normal person's body would be crippled even if they didn't die. Even a super soldier with an extraordinary physique would have a piece of flesh cut off. Kale wasn't a gentle and weak person. After being provoked and attacked by the alien creature again and again, the anger that had been suppressed surged to his heart once more. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Kale's eyes flashed with a cold light. He suddenly stepped on the man's hand blade. The scythe-wielding man tried to pull back, but he underestimated Kale's strength. The hand blade only trembled slightly and didn't pull back in time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Kale twisted his body and kicked the scythe-wielding man away. He hit the wall and the floor of the tunnel and bounced a few times, raising a cloud of dust. But soon, under Kale's cold gaze, the scythe-wielding man climbed up from the ground with his hand blade. A few drops of bright red blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He grinned and laughed wildly. I didn't misjudge you. That's right. Fight me. Kale ignored him. He reached behind him and quickly materialized his cards. Two black, round objects were thrown at the scythe-wielding man. He quickly took a few steps back. What is this? The scythe-wielding man looked up. He subconsciously waved his scythes and cut the objects in half. The next moment, two bursts of fire and explosion suddenly erupted in front of him. B*****. Come and fight me. The scythe-wielding man's blood-curdling scream rang out. Who said I want to fight in close combat with a monster with two blades? Aren't you very fast? Come and chase me. Kale's mouth was full of ridicule. Now he didn't have the protection of the venom coat and vibranium arm guards. He didn't have the venom suit form and the strong attack means of the sodium carbon steel sword. He would be crazy to fight with a monster race that was born to fight with his bare hands. Understanding the gap in strength between them, he could rely on tools to make up for it. He quickly drew cards in his mind. High-explosive grenades, shrapnel grenades, and so on were thrown forward as if they didn't need money to seal the passage space. For a time, large and small explosions continued to resound in the underground passage, mixed with the angry and painful cries of the scythe-wielding man. The narrow underground tunnel greatly limited its speed, and the grenade would have an extraordinary effect in there, so there was no place for it to hide. After the frequent baptism of grenades and bombs, although the scythe-wielding man quickly avoided the most high-risk central explosion area every time, his hair was still scorched black, and his body was covered in blood and gunpowder. I don't believe you can have so much ammunition on you. The scythe-wielding man gritted his teeth and raised the scythe that was no longer smooth again. He accelerated his pace in exasperation. His body's speed broke through the supersonic speed, and the strong wind blew away the thick smoke in the area. As soon as he broke out of the explosion area in the passage, the scythe-wielding man saw Kale standing in front of him. He was just filled with joy and raised the scythe in both hands to slash at him, but when he saw the weapon in Kale's hand, his face suddenly changed. Don't mess with me. Kale snorted coldly, holding the laser machine in both hands. He pulled the trigger and several dazzling blue-white lasers shot out from the muzzle. The scythe-wielding man accelerated to dodge, and his body turned into a black shadow that became blurred. He bounced back and forth in the passage, and the lasers that were accurate and predictable all missed his body. When the speed reached more than the speed of sound, it really had the meaning of restraining all attacks. Try this. Kale was expressionless, holding the gun in one hand and shooting continuously, forcing the opponent to stay away. Chapter 184. The man with the sickle's eyes were bloodshot. His anger was bottled up in his chest, and he had nowhere to vent it. He had to stay alert and move as fast as he could to dodge the laser shots from the sharpshooter. Where did he get the laser gun? The man with the sickle could not figure it out, but he did not have the time to think about it. He saw Kale take out a black disc and throw it at him. Another bomb? The man with the sickle clenched his teeth and jumped high into the air. He stepped on the wall and bounced off. The disc was much easier to dodge than the laser and it spun under his feet. Bang! The black disc fell on the ground behind him, but it did not explode. The man with the sickle was confused, but in the next moment an unexpected force pulled him down, causing his supersonic body to stop in the air and crash into the wall. At this moment, Cale took aim and pulled the trigger. A blinding laser shot at the man with the sickle. The man with the sickle screamed in pain. His chest was completely penetrated by the laser, leaving a bloody hole. He fell on the ground behind him and sticky blood quickly spread out from the wound. His eyes were as round as saucers. Even in death, he could not believe that he would die here in such a vexed and depressing way, in such a powerless way. His life force is too strong. He could even survive the carpet bombing. Cale let out a sigh of relief and put away the laser gun that had just run out of energy. He leaned against the wall and took out another similar disc to absorb the one on the ground. In the end, the final item was the gravity magnet. This high-tech device could only double the gravity underground, and it was usually only effective on normal people. But just now, in the battle of life and death, the doubled gravity undoubtedly played an unexpected role. Even the sickle-wielding man who had supersonic speed was at a disadvantage. It was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Then next, Cale stood up, but he suddenly heard a warning from the vice. Warning. A huge creature is approaching quickly. Huge creature? Cale frowned. His body, which had finally relaxed a little, tensed up again as he faced the tunnel ahead. Along with the slight trembling of the ground, a huge shadow quickly appeared from the end of the tunnel. Its body almost filled up the entire space of the underground tunnel. Two snake-shaped heads were ferocious, spitting out scarlet forked tongues. Its vertical pupils were coldly looking down at Cale. A giant two-headed snake. Are you coming too? Cale was not willing to be outdone. He raised his eyes and coldly confronted the two-headed snake. After going through a battle, his exhausted body did not lose in terms of aura and pressure. The championship match hadn't even started yet, and there were already two semi-finalist challengers. No, including the child that Venom once possessed, there were three of them. The double-headed snake lowered its head and glanced at the corpse of the scythe-wielding man on the ground. A human-like look of mockery and disdain appeared in the snake's eyes. It turned its gaze to Cale as if it was looking at a dead man. Master. There are already 20 spaceships guarding the galactic arena above the underground prison. The vice warned. That's simple. Kill this monster and we'll break out. In the face of an internal and external predicament, Cale was so calm that he did not seem human. He directly drew his card without any disguise and a large laser gun appeared in his hand. When the double-headed snake saw the laser weapon, it actually cracked its fangs and smiled. Its body leaned back slightly. It did not have any obvious intention to attack, but its upper body suddenly shot out like a spring. The two heads opened their bloody mouths and pounced on Cale. Cale's face changed. He raised the laser gun and pulled the trigger without aiming. A laser immediately penetrated the mouth of one of the snake heads and blood splattered everywhere. However, the attack of the double-headed snake did not stop. Instead, it became even more violent and crazy. The intact bloody mouth bit down fiercely. Cale saw that there was nowhere to hide, so he quickly raised the gun in his hand and blocked the snake's intact mouth vertically. The double-headed snake let out a sharp hiss and forcefully closed its mouth. The large metal laser gun made a creaking sound and the gun barrel was bent under the terrifying force of the snake's bite. Cale held the gun with both hands. His body was hanging from the mouth of the double-headed snake less than 10 centimeters away. He could clearly smell the stench of the snake's bloody mouth. This monster actually wants to swallow me whole. Cale was indifferent. He looked at the gun in his hand that was slowly bent and could not block the snake's mouth. He made a choice and let go of the gun. He took the initiative to step on the snake's lower jaw with both of his hands. With 10 times the strength of a human, the snake's mouth was slowly pushed open by Cale's brute force. I'll give you something good to eat. With a thought, he took out the item card and turned it into a physical high-explosive grenade and threw it into the snake's mouth. Bang! A few wisps of black smoke came out of the snake's mouth. The giant double-headed snake violently twisted its body in pain. It kept increasing its speed and crawling around in the underground tunnel. Monster of monsters. Cale's scalp went numb. This alien double-headed snake was completely fine after swallowing the high-explosive grenade. It only felt pain in its stomach. Yes. Cale's body was half buried in the snake's mouth. He used his steel-like body to forcefully hold the upper and lower jaws. However, the double-headed snake seemed to have an idea and suddenly slammed its head against the outer wall. His back hit the wall. Kale's body was completely buried in the snake's mouth. At the same time, the double-headed snake's bite became stronger. It was slowly closing its bloody mouth and swallowing him. It's not that simple. Kale held his breath. All the strength in his body was added to his limbs. His back was as straight as a dragon and he was not willing to bend in the slightest. The intense battle between the two sides turned into a tug-of-war of strength. The double-headed snake kept slamming its mouth against the outer wall. The outer wall was already unable to withstand the continuous explosion of bullets. Now it finally started to shake and collapse. Kale resisted with all his might. However, the discomfort in his body increased. Tiredness and fatigue hit him like a tidal wave. The strength in his body started to weaken gradually. Together with the double-headed snake's bite and swallowing, the snake's mouth started to close up. Damn it! Why did it have to be at this time? Kale opened his eyes wide. The weakening of the gene disease came too suddenly. He would temporarily lose the ability of his extraordinary body. At this moment of life and death, once he lost his ability, even if it was temporary, it would be fatal. Master, don't give up. Vice transformed back into a mechanical life form and stood on Kale's shoulder. Its hands and limbs were flickering with small electric lights to numb the snake's mouth. However, it was obvious that it was powerless. The snake's mouth closed bit by bit. Just as Kale was completely submerged in the darkness of the snake's mouth, he suddenly remembered an item in the card space. Right, there's still that thing. Kale's mind quickly entered the card space. He quickly drew out an item card with a strong purple glow. The card floated in the snake's almost closed mouth and became the only source of light in his eyes. Turn into a physical body. Kale roared in his heart. The next moment, the purple card turned into a broken axe with a sharp crack. Its terrifying weight allowed it to pierce into the snake's stomach with great force. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.